What's going on, everybody? Welcome to tonight's broadcast of the ACL. We are not at the round of 12 yet. That's a little early. We are in week 4B, where the gauntlet is still underway. 4 more teams left to qualify for the playoffs, 2 of which will qualify here tonight. But first, we've got 2 more teams to eliminate, and that's where we're going to zero in for tonight's stream. We've got final boss Chungus taking on Apex Mission Impossible, a team that nobody thought would make it this far, to a team that nobody thought would drop this far.
Yeah.
My name's Gordo. I'm joined by Quacks on the broadcast tonight. Quacks, what a matchup.
Absolutely. And I am, kind of in the majority here, Gordo, especially with the opinion of AMI. I mean, this is a team that has a lot of players that people are, pretty decently high on, pretty excited to see going into 2026 as they did re-qualify for the NACL. And they're at risk of elimination here from Final Boss Chungus, a team that, like you said, no one really expected to be the guys, competing for them this early on for this kind of condition. So I am really looking to see kind of that rebound here from AMI, because I think in most recent weeks a lot of people have been really low on this team. You look at some of their clips, you look at some of their games, and it definitely feels like this is a bit disappointing for an NACL caliber level team. And I am going to be on the lookout individually and both just how they work as a unit. But for FBC, I mean, what is a polar bear doing in Arlington, Texas? I feel like these guys have far exceeded a lot of people's expectations. That's been a recent pattern in these last couple of broadcasts, frankly, Gordo.
Yeah, I mean, they come out of the group stage, it's a 1-3 record, but it's a 1-3 record that they get to ride to a little bit of a higher seeding because of how the rest of their group played out, right? So 3 different teams tie at 1-3, Weber, Gravity, and Final Boss Chungus. Final Boss Chungus gets a ride that's being the highest seed thanks to game record and head-to-head, and it takes them into, a relatively favorable position coming into the gauntlet. Now, granted, that favorable position means you're playing against harder teams. So they go 1-2 against CCG, and then they go 0-2 against Kiwi Gang. So they are 1-4 in the gauntlet so far, and now they find themselves in elimination territory up against AMI. But, based on performances so far this ACL, AMI by far the weakest of those 3.
And I feel like this is a team that is really kind of similar to Calamity that we covered in our most recent broadcast, just earlier last week, where it is very apparent that this is a team that has a ceiling that everyone imagines, right? And it feels like one that they're going to have to punch above if they really want to start exceeding those expectations that people have laid for them. As it stands, the expectations that everyone kind of had going into the season, they are kind of at the top of that. But if they want to go higher, they need to take down some of these bigger teams, the CCGs, the Kiwi Gangs. And so I am looking to see if AMI might be the start to them really beginning that trend, really beginning that train, and being a team that a lot of people are surprised to see make it this far, because this would be a really big upset in my mind. Even if you look at the scores and you look at how these teams have been performing at around the same level, the fact that you're able to beat an NACL team as a squad full of, kind of that 5 friends and a dream-esque energy going in, that would be really impressive and a really big shock, I think, to a lot of people who look at the teams on paper.
Yeah, for sure. And now there's the other thing to bring up here is that this is a little bit of a different AMI squad than the one that has played most of the games so far. So we're getting word it's going to be 2 substitutes in for them tonight. Here's the normal starting lineup. It's normally Decoy, Lojaz, Retrozing, Baz, and Protos. But what we're seeing when we look at the lobby, looks like it's going to be Arbrio in at top lane off of the previously eliminated Gravity team. And it's going to be Inori B in at bot instead of
All right, so a little bit more teeth to the wolf's fangs, I would say, to that bite, a little bit more bite force here. As I feel like Baz oftentimes is looked at as a pretty vegan AD carry, someone who is really good at being consistent, holding down the fort and allowing his team to really get resources on the top side, where he will be always relevant around that mid to late game when the AD carry eventually leaves the bird's nest. And Ori B kind of feels like the opposite of that, Gordo, where Inori B kind of commands the laning phase or really wants those resources, and if he gets the right conditions, can take over a game. And then Arbrio, obviously there's less tape on this guy, but feels like he's in a similar vein where, you know, you give this guy the ball and he can deliver a half-court shot if in the right conditions.
Yeah, I've been very impressed with Arbrio and what he's gotten to show us throughout his career so far, particularly in splits other than the current one. Obviously, this current Gravity split, a little disappointing, I think, for everybody on that lineup. That was a dark horse team that I had pegged as being able to potentially punch above their weight class. Didn't quite work out that way for them this time around. Still excited to see what the future holds for a number of these players. With that said, let's take a look over at the final boss Chungus lineup, who is going to be brawling up against them starting on the blue side tonight. That roster, when we bring it up, is going to be Fliptick, Colton, Aquanick, Handy Taco, and Barbo.
And this is a team that, you know, like I said earlier, kind of gives off the five friends and a dream energy, and very much so seems to embody the Scrappy-esque play style that comes along with it. I mean, you look at the champ pools of a lot of these players, and it's very fight-oriented. In particular, Gordo, I know that you're very high on Aquanick as a mid laner. So, you know, give like a little hear me out on this player, because I feel like a lot of people watching might not be familiar with his game.
Yeah, I mean, he's gotten to play a couple of ACLs now. I think most notably, ACL-wise, he was on that, what were they called? A Foxtrot team that made a pretty solid run. He's also been the mid laner over at Michigan State for a couple of years now. But really, really impressive player in lane in particular, I think is where he stands out mostly. Still definitely has a lot to work on outside of the laning phase, but those laning stats are crazy. I think the big one that I bring up is in the spring split this year, which was our first split of 2025 ACL. You know, the big winners there were, of course, Citadel. They kind of dominated the whole league. Bradley in the mid lane, obviously leading on all of those mid laners' laning stats, CSD, gold difference, solo kills, all those things. It was him up at the top, and then right behind him was Aquanick. And then after that, a huge gap before you see anybody else. So he was really able to put up those numbers during that run, and, you know, was able to win a couple of rounds. I think they ended up top 8, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm very excited to see if he's going to be able to kind of replicate that performance more consistently on some more teams here in ACL. This final boss Chungus team now kind of starting to get a little miracle run of their own going. Hard to not notice that pattern.
Yeah, but the miracle could be snuffed out if they do not end up winning out, clutching out this series. Is like we've said, this is an elimination match, so it really feels like you are at the edge of a cliff, and you're talking about the miracle run. Basically, what I'm hearing from you, Gordo, is give Aquanick a team, because this guy statistically is a little bit of a gapper in the mid lane, which is very exciting. But I will say, kind of going into the draft that we have now started, one thing that I'm very curious about are the junglers here. Obviously, you've got Colton and you've got Lojaz, both of whom have 10 unique picks, so they very much are you know, delving deep into their champion pools here in the ACL. So I do wonder if just straight out of the gate we're going to be seeing a jungler picked, obviously with that Azir and Orianna both snagged away from the bans. It really doesn't give you any opportunity to first pick a mid laner, so I think the idea is you either go Ambessa or you go one of those fighter junglers off the bat.
Yeah, and one other thing I do want to call out as far as substitutions go, we were still waiting for the final boss Chungus lineup to round out in client, but did notice that we had one of the newer additions to the FBC lineup in the lobby. We had Eon Crystal coming on in over Colton, FKA Institutional, who has been the starting jungler for the majority of the split. I think a lot of folks getting much, much higher on Eon Crystal these days after his performance in the Cyto Combine recently, and would give them a lot of additional firepower in the jungle, subbing on in today.
I mean, my impression on Aeon Crystal rose significantly from that event, Gordo. I think that this guy has a lot of potential to really show up, but I do also kind of take the Cyto Combine with a grain of salt, because even if you are a player who is, you know, a little bit above average, those are some of the best players in the entire region. So I think that when you've got, you know, 4 players that are some of the best in their role in the whole server, it can kind of cover up some weaknesses that you might have. I don't think that he necessarily has has the luxury of that this time around, because as much as I like the FBC players, they aren't on the same caliber as the members who played in that Saito Combine, as Final Boss Chungus going to actually snag up that Yunara first, so not going for a topside pickup here. And I would imagine AMI, probably not gonna instantly go for an AD carry in response, probably gonna wait that out on either, third pick, maybe even take it into round 2 of the picks. But again, I still think the idea here would probably be to secure either a top jungle or jungle mid, get that synergy down in your comp as soon as possible.
And here's another interesting one coming out here. So looking like I don't see Handy Taco in the lineup tonight for Final Boss Chungus. I think this is going to be the other recent roster addition for them. Pi Trigon is how I'm going to try to pronounce this. If anybody knows how to pronounce it better, it's Pytrigon.
That's Pi Trigon.
That's got to be Pi Trigon, right?
Right.
I'm going to rock with that name until somebody tells me otherwise.
I think that's a wise decision, as we do see AMI going for that Talia. Probably just going to either snag up the Xin Zhao, maybe a Wukong if they want a little bit more snap engage, if they are thinking maybe we're going to put Protoss on one of his tried and true enchanter supports, because we do know that Protoss really likes to go for things like the Bard, like the Lulu. He likes his ranged 80s, likes his ranged supports rather. Isn't a big fan of those engage supports, so I do think that requires jungle to pick up the slack a little bit here, be that primary engager, and they are going to go the Wukong as a result.
Yeah, absolutely here. So there's going to be the Talia Wukong combo coming on through for AMI. I think this is real tried and true for them. Right up Retro Zing's alley as well. This is something that he's really played a lot of over the course of the run that AMI has gone on over the last 6 months and change or so since he joined up on the roster. Retro Zing also going to be playing against a number of former teammates here tonight, or possibly only one. I guess it's going to be Eon Crystal. Handy Taco would be in that category as well, were he playing, but hearing the Pi Trigon bell tolling, so it sounds like there's going to make a little bit of a change there with this Yunara first pick for their freshly added marksman player. The Xin Zhao coming into the jungle, going to be for the other new addition in Eon Crystal. And there's a very early Vex pick. This is a pocket pick of Aquanix.
Yeah.
Surprised to see it selected so early, but hey, he sees a good angle to interrupt some Wukong engages, and he's going to take it.
I do think that this also opens up maybe a little bit more flexibility from Protoss to actually roam up toward that mid lane, because obviously while Vex does have the fear and is pretty long range, doesn't have any innate escapes. So I do think that if you decide to go something like the Bard, it could really punish this Vex for having that strong push once she eventually acquires that lost chapter. So I am looking at Protoss to be very roam reliant, and they are going to pick up the Bard. So this does kind of put Aquanic in a bit of a bind where, yeah, sure, you don't have to worry about the Wukong because he doesn't have that pressure pre-6, but now the Bard is another threat that you just have to keep in the back of your mind.
Yeah, you certainly do here. So with that in mind, going to see how they're going to look to round out these drafts and what they're going to ban away in the second phase. The Bard, of course, like you said, going to be going over towards Protoss. This is the kind of pick that I think he really specializes in.
Yeah.
Plays a little bit more of the off-the-wall stuff, a little bit more of the enchantery stuff. Going to be looking to ban away some of these more traditional engagers. Barbo does have himself a couple of pocket picks as well. He's gotten the bust of the Maokai a couple of times already. Also willing to go for some more of those enchantery picks. Got some Janna games in there, some Melio games, some Seraphine games, even a Zillion game as well. So deep pools for both supports. AMI going to be the one who grabs the traditional deep support pool champion in the Bard.
I wouldn't hate if they, decided to maybe go for like a Poppy support here. I think that is definitely an angle, because it is really hard for Bard to get, some of those magical journeys into these tighter spaces when you're, at risk of getting knocked into a wall. But that isn't something that Barbo plays, as far as I know. So might not see that. Instead, might just see something a little bit tankier, because I think when you look at this comp, obviously you've got, the engage from Vex, but you want something like a Leona, like a Nautilus, to make sure that you can get those resets off the ultimate. So that requires a lot of single target damage. So I think that's where the focus is going to be for FBC, at least in Barbo's category. As we are finishing up the bans here, I would imagine that FBC are probably just going to keep banning away some of these top laners. Obviously, the Ambessa is still open and available. Surprised no one has actually decided to pay attention to that thus far. I think that is one of the stronger top laners. They are going to go for the Scion, though, so that does leave Ambessa open. And yeah, I wouldn't hate it here, but they're going to save it until 5th pick, which I think is a wiser decision. Instead of just opting for the Jhin, which I guess is fine, right? You're not expecting a ton of action when a Yunara is locked in. So I think that this really points the direction of aggression in the early game, Gordo, toward that top side. And that's really where Bard can shine, like you said, roaming around the map.
Yeah, so the response support going to be the Lulu to pair up with the Yunara. So still sticking with the Enchanter department is Barbo. And they're going to round things out with a pick for their top laner. Fliptick has been drawing a lot of those Camille bans, but that's already been taken off the board. Wonder if it is going to be something like that Ambessa that you brought up earlier on. Could be a dive buddy alongside that Vex. Yeah, Renekton could go in as well. Yeah, I wouldn't mind any of those selections here. I'm curious if they have something that they prefer in the blind, but it feels like the Ambessa or the Renekton both could be very fine blind selections that would fit in well with the composition. So FBC, not with too dicey of a top lane selection here. I think the real surprise would be if Fliptick goes for something that isn't either of the other two. It's going to be the Renekton.
Yeah, I think that your Call of the Meek obviously has a ton of value because of how immobile the AMI comp is so far, and now they're going to round it out with a Rumble, so that means double AP solo laners here, and I'm a little bit concerned about that because, I mean, you look at AMI's comp right now, and you're not expecting Jhin to do a ton of damage until he is like a pre-25-minute Jhin gets around that 3 to 4 item mark, so it means that a lot of the AD damage, the person shouldering that burden, is going to be the Wukong, who doesn't really start off the game as a super big threat. It really just is up for him to get that Triforce Cyclone power spike. That's when he can really start to turn on the jets there. So that does have me a little bit concerned, because if your Jhin can't get ahead, your Wukong can't get ahead, then I feel like it is just an easy magic resist build here for Renekton, and he's going to be the main front line for this FBC comp. And I do think that does require them to get this Renekton out of lane pretty early, so I would imagine they'll probably be going for those grubs as soon as possible, and making sure that top side objective and the grub buff that comes with it allows Renekton to break that turret, roam with his team, and become kind of a raid boss that AMI's damage profile will have trouble getting through.
And conversely, I think I would look at this AMA comp and think that they're probably going to try to prioritize putting Arborio's Rumble into a positive position here. Yeah. We'll have to see. As it's a new top laner, it's a new bot laner for them. They're kind of in a different iteration of the roster than the one that we've seen for the majority of the season. But traditionally, this has been a team that wants things to go late. They like to play a kind of a later team fighty style. That's what got them into the NACL. The ability to kind of minimize losses in the early game and in the mid game, and then be able to come together and win out on those 5-on-5s. I think Arborio's a real sick Rumble player. He's had some real cool highlights in his time in the ACL on this pick so far, even though he hasn't necessarily been on teams that are capable of making those deep runs. And it's a good composition for it, right? They've got lockdown across the rest of the roster to be able to make sure that they're going to be able to make the most value out of that equalizer. So expecting to see Lojaz pay some trips up top just to make sure that Arborio is going to have the smoothest laning phase possible. And yeah, the rest of AMI, they're going to have to sit tight somewhat, which should be a style they're pretty familiar with.
And honestly, I wouldn't even say that Lojaz is alone and, paying visits up to the top side. I think that Protoss is going to be equally as responsible for making sure that this top side runs smoothly. We kind of mentioned, roaming toward that mid lane, punishing Vex, who is immobile and does not have a ton of forms of escape, a ton of forms of disengage, minus that innate fear. But I do think that it is equally as important to make sure this top side matchup goes smoothly, because outside of having that dominance and being kind of a big frontliner if you're ahead, Renekton is just kind of relegated to a stun bot if he gets behind. So I think that if you can make sure this guy isn't ahead, I think you kind of kill two birds with one stone, where one of your magic damage threats is an absolute god on the map, and the main frontline, the main guy who's going to be starting up a lot of these fights for FBC, isn't tanky enough to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have ourselves a little bit of a pause to start on off the game, but as soon as
Classic.
that is resolved, which it sounds like it is in the
Yup, I hear
background, we will
smells.
get on to Summoner's Rift. Welcome, everybody. Game number 1, final boss Chungus taking on Apex Mission Impossible. This is going to be our last ACL stream for a little while here. Quack's about to go on Thanksgiving break.
Yep.
And one of these teams going to be taking a much longer break until the year 2026 after this series is said and done.
Absolutely. And, you know, Gordo, I absolutely love that the winter map is back. Every time I see it, I'm just so happy because I think the Ionian map got me conditioned to seeing way better textures and way cooler colors than the classic Summoner's Rift. I actually remember like having a huge sigh of disappointment after we went back to normal Summoner's Rift and was really hoping that they gave an option to go back to the old maps, but turns out they did not. So I'm glad we have another map skin here as we have another pause, conveniently enough.
Yeah, we made it through. Our prod almost went to the bathroom there. That was almost a competitive integrity violation right there. Happy we were able to bail ourselves out of that one. But that's all right. Players kind of getting their own business figured out, I suppose, as we will be back on the Rift as soon as we are able. Going back to that early game, I'm real curious to see these junglers interact, right? I think Lojaz, kind of a player whose stocks have risen a lot over the course of the year, qualifying to NACL twice with this AMI lineup or other versions of it. And, you know, now in this off season, it's been Eon Crystal kind of following in those footsteps, really looking to become a player who I think a lot of people have a lot of respect for. So again, want to highlight that Eon Crystal Retrozing matchup, these former teammates who were kind of bottom of the barrel for so long, both of whom kind of breaking out this year.
Yeah, and I think Retrozing specifically still having to kind of prove himself, right? Because obviously AMI have been pretty, I want to say, consistent about switching their mid laners. You know, first it was Zalt, and then they kept switching around when they were in NACL, and now it has landed on Retrozing here in this newest iteration. So basically think of the AMI mid laner like the T1 top laner. They haven't really been able to find their groove, and it's just a question of if Retrozing, you know, can maybe be their Zeus, maybe be the guy that they stick around with for more than one split, more than one season.
Or their Doran, who they're also...
Or their Doran. You're right. Wait, you're actually right. As... yeah, we'll have to wait and see. As I think I agree with you. I think Retrozing has obviously proven himself in the most recent promotion tournament that AMI obviously won to be a really decent mid laner and one that has a lot of upside. But maybe those stocks will fall here if AMI aren't able to come through, which they are at risk of doing. In fact, I feel like if they, you know, aren't able to push through FBC as a challenge in this series, the stocks of everyone on this team might be really low going into 2026, and the expectations for this team might be a lot more on the down end going into NACL.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a risk to be conscious of here. Aquanet getting aggressive in the lane here, going to continue to trade into this Talia, has the early game harassment power from that Vex, and really making Retrozing feel it here so far. Has gotten himself a nice early lead over the course of the first couple of levels before the junglers are really in a position to get involved. Opposite side clears, of course, here in the early game, so Eon going to finish his way up towards the top. Lojaz going to finish towards the bottom. This is a push going in the favor of Anori B and Protoss, so they might have to be a little bit careful.
The Fliptic on the top side taking a really bad trade into Arbrio. It's going to go down and place a ward in that Tribush, but like you said, Lojaz is the guy pathing toward the bot side. The Wave is kind of in a position, though, where Aeon can't really assist his top laner unless Arbrio oversteps his bounds. The Xin won't have the ability to really help out this Renekton, whose Wave is in kind of a dire state. You're at about half HP, and the one-shot potential from a Rumble is never to be underestimated, so Fliptic gonna have to be very careful.
Yeah, especially on that Doran's Ring Star, gives you that little bit of additional AP. Pytrigon looking for the trade up against Nori B, but will get rooted up by that Deadly Flourish, and it's going to make it a positive trade for Protoss and a Nori B. Protoss also going to have access to that additional sustain. It's also on the Ignite Electrocute Bard here, so really set up to try to play this lane a little bit more aggressively. Lojaz looking to entertain that idea as he makes his way over towards the Tri-Brush, but gonna channel a complete recall.
and dropping a ward right before he backs as well. So you can see that Aeon doing a similar thing. Neither jungler really looking for any sort of aggression into the lanes after their first clear. This also means that the Xin Zhao going to be having a difficult time making this game work out, which it looks like he is going to attempt to do.
Yeah, Eon coming on through. Does have the control ward to disable vision, but will show himself as he clears that ward out. And that will be the call to retreat for Protoss and Nori B, at least from laning 2-2 aggressively. Other ward thrown down by Protoss, going to spot any attempt into the river from Eon. And now Nori B going to show himself and just push in another wave here now. Pretty confident that the Xin Zhao is not going to get in here and spoil the party.
And Aeon already visited once, and I don't think he wants to delay as clear as the Xin Zhao, meaning that Pi Trigon kind of going to be on his own. He's going to be left with Barbo, and that means he can't really step up to the wave. This Yunara getting denied a lot of experience. Protoss with the blind!
Wow, all right. Flash over the wall. Protoss gets him down. Just holds Pi Trigon in place for long enough to be able to find the kill. And both summoners up. The newcomer to the FBC team going to go down for first blood.
That was a blind cue from Protoss. He had no idea Yunara was actually in that position. So, I mean, he hits that, gets the stun, and Nori B, like you said, follows up with the Deadly Flourish, and that's enough for Protoss to commit both summoners to, like you said, secure first blood. So this gives AMI's bot lane a chance to channel their recalls and get back to lane without losing too much. Really good start for them, not only because it's a kill on the board, but also because that CS difference is already growing between the AD carries, and now with an item advantage in bot lane, that has the potential to get a lot worse for the FBC bot lane.
Oh, and there's Aquanic on the all-in solo kill in mid. Already up multiple waves of CS. That's what I was talking about with this guy in the pregame, Quacks. He just finds these advantages up against some of the best mids in NA Tier 3 time and time again.
And Retro saying no teleport either means Aquanic shoves in this wave. And I mean, the man has picked Vex 3 times. This is a pocket pick, and we're seeing its effectiveness in this game. So he will get the first kill for FBC here, but everywhere else, it does feel like they are kind of struggling. You saw that Pi Trigon a little bit late to the resets. It's actually going to miss a decent amount of minions stacked up on that top side. So just furthering the gap between him and Nori B in the gold department. And also in top lane, it feels like things are going equally awry for Flipdick, who is down about 10 CS. And, you know, we saw that earlier trade. It feels like he has yet to recover from that, because Arbrio has been managing to bully out this Renekton for basically the entire 6.5 minutes of this game so far.
Yeah, certainly Arbrio with a nice little CS lead of his own, just from that straight up laning phase. And so far, the jungler's not really finding opportunities to get involved, just trading a farm evenly. Many situations you feel like that's pretty good for the Wukong, who gets a much bigger boost from the level 6. So Lojaz is gonna, you know, kind of hang his hat on that being a little bit of a mini victory in and of itself. And this lane's kind of just winning on their own. Going to see if he can make sure to keep that going a little bit more. Would love to see him make an appearance towards that bottom side, really set Arbrio up for success.
And Lojaz hitting level 6 there. You can see he's immediately looking for something on the top side, maybe suspecting that Aquanic was roaming, trying to get a deep ward, but the Vex is just in the laning phase, and this is where Vex, I think, really thrives. Your wave clear on your first few items is just absolutely insane. Not to mention the safety that you can wave clear from makes it really difficult to punish. So this just means that Aeon will have no issue crossing over mid with his Vex and trying to look for these grubs. Coming up in just a couple of seconds here, both teams really posturing aggressively around this.
Ooh, there's going to be an attempted Tempered Fate from Protoss. Gets the flash out of Eon Crystal, who realizes that that would likely mean the death of him. But the Grubs already getting started off by AMI. Oh, going to step up to try to contest for this one. Misses the smite on the first, which did go the way of Lojaz. But now Lojaz has to bail his way out. Might still be a 2-for-1 trade in the favor of final boss Chungus. Aquanic waiting in on the side, looking for a moment to be able to strike.
Barbo's hit.
Call coming on through, taking Barbo's health low. The damage on Lojaz is crazy. And Aquanic will finish him off with the electrocute. Now both Grubs still standing there. Aquanic going in for a little bit more. Finds Protoss. Gets boosted up by Barbo. Finds another reset. Chasing onto RetroZing. Forcing him to flash back underneath the turret. And final boss Chungus take the fight 2-for-1.
And honestly, Aquatic just one-shotting Low Jazz in that exchange. That Wukong had no time to react. He just immediately gets blown up. AMI lose their jungler and have to scatter Gordo. FBC pick up the objective. They pick up a couple of kills. And this Vex now not only up in kills by 2, but also almost 40 CS separates these two mid laners.
Yeah, that was a 2-0 actually. My bad there. But they get themselves the 2 grubs as well. That's where the real 2-for-1 happens. So FBC, they come up with the objective and the kill count. And like you said, the gold allocation is huge as well. That's 5 stacks of a Dark Seal for an Aquanic who knew that he was going to be dominating this game from very early stages. Picked that one up before he picked up his first kill, and now is reaping the benefits on his pocket pickbacks.
But it feels like he is looked at as kind of the lone savior for FBC so far in this game. I still think that AD carry and top, relative to where you see AMI's positioning in those roles, are kind of behind. So Aquanic dominant in the laning phase, but I think that the onus is on this Vex to be freed from the laning phase, you know, visit mid, visit top, try and spread that wealth around a little bit, or, you know, get down toward that dragon, force AMI into some of these tougher situations because you are so fed. You got to press that advantage if you are Aquanic, and I think that the rest of FBC need to find ways to get him around the map.
Going to be one of the objectives for the next couple of minutes. This dragon been up for a while, neither team really prioritizing it so far. It's just been that farm battle on the top side that Arbrio continues to just develop a gradual lead in. You know where the lead is really more noticeable is in that mid lane. I don't really know exactly how he does it. You can see in the trades how aggressively he plays the laning phase, but this is that kind of stuff that led to him being such a statistical standout in the spring split. This dude's got a 30 CS lead in mid right now.
AMI, 3 members are up toward that top side. You can see that Low Jazz is maybe looking for some of Aeon's jungle, but will actually find nothing. So kind of some time wasted here by the Wukong, because I feel like the ability to dive that Renekton isn't really there, which means you don't have a lot to do on this side of the map. And yeah, FBC, I think being able to garner control of that bot side river, they just take the dragon for essentially free, Gordo.
Yeah, good call here from the FBC crew. Just taking this all away. Good job by FlipTick, just negating as much of that pressure as he could, probably expecting a dive when that big wave comes through. But the fact that he's able to navigate his way through, clear the wave in pretty quick, efficient fashion, and get himself out to safety, going to be going in the win category for FBC. Are now just taking resets of their own on the bottom side, redeploying. They're just a little bit ahead on the game than AMI is at this stage.
Certainly, and they have the potential to get even further ahead. They got the first 3 kills and have 2 objectives under their belt, so all they'll need is 1 more, and they will be able to get the feat of Monster Slang, and by extension, get the upgraded boots, which would really put them in a good position. You can already see that Aquanic has his tier 2 boots, so this would just help with that pen a little bit more on the Vex's side, make it much more difficult for the front line of AMI to actually withstand this guy's damage, which admittedly, we didn't really mention this in the draft, but AMI don't really have a front line, Gordo. They do have Low Jazz, but oh, hang on.
Oh, that slow from Pi Trigon actually stops Sonori B from walking into the Shadow Surge, but they're going to be able to finish off a kill regardless. Barbo walking away with the credit for a pick on a Protoss, not even going to expend the flash. Knew that he was cooked from that position, and Honori B going to be entirely forced out of lane. This is going to be a reward of multiple plates going the way of Pi Trigon, trying to get him back to the game as FlipTick pops the Dominus to get a good trade with Arbrio, but thinks better of it afterwards and backs away.
Just an intimidation all at the end of the day. FlipTick forces Arbrio back, but, kind of going back to that bot play, Gordo, this is what we said Aquanic needed to do. You've got that wave clear with the completed Ludens. You need to be able to leave the lane, influence the rest of the map, and that's exactly what he does. He doesn't end up with the kill, but he does manage to take down Protoss, give more of the FBC members some of that gold. Admittedly, I do think that FBC are allocating their gold a little bit disingenuously, because Aquanic having 2 kills, that's great and all for the Vex, but why does the Lulu tie in kills and exceed the kill count of Renekton, Xin Zhao, and Yunara?
Yeah, I mean, probably nothing you could have done about that first one out of Protoss, but
Fair enough.
yeah, subsequent ones, especially that last one, you're really hoping could have gone to one of the carries. Granted, they do still get plate gold on towards Trigon to try to hit
That wave clear, man, is insane
in the game. But yeah, that wave clear really showing off there what this Vex can do. Fliptick now under pressure again, and getting dove again. Does know that the wave is coming on in here. He's just going to make the call to bail on it. They're going to give over first turret over to AMI, which I think they do have the flexibility to be able to do. They're on good pace to be able to get the feats regardless. Right. That will be turret gold going over the way of AMI.
It's absolutely the correct call there from Fliptick, as Aquanic may be in trouble. Does have flash.
Yeah. In pretty deep, maybe going to be forced to flash here, and will do so on the last possible rock. Retrozing now up a little bit far. Eon Crystal going to look to poke him with the staff a little bit here, but also thinks better of it. Now he's got a call for help from the bottom lane. Stunned up by the Cosmic Binding. Protoss looking to finish him off. Has to pop the Crescent Guard. TP in from Fliptick, abandoning the bottom wave to try to fix this comedy of errors playing out in the bottom lane, or in the mid lane rather. And now Barbo going to be in trouble, shuffled back in. Now getting hit by the curtain call, flashes back away. Trigon trying to block. Now he's going to take too much damage. There goes the Tempered Fate, going to lock up Lojaz and Trigon both. But Lojaz is ready with the Cyclone to make it a second kill. Final Bus Chungus, they just can't keep their hands out of the cookie jar, and AMI walk away with 2 kills for it.
It just feels like a plethora of FBC positioning errors. I mean, first Aquanic almost gets taken down. He has to flash. Aeon covers for him. Aeon almost dies. Fliptick has to cover for him. He almost dies. And then Barbo has to cover for him. And he ends up dying. So all the members of FBC get taken low, have to use summoner spells to escape or cover their teammates. And the result is you lose your support, you lose the Herald, and you lose your Vice Iron grip over this game, as now AMI are leading in gold, and they steal away the Herald that was yours, surely not just 45 seconds before all of that.
Yeah, a little messy there, and you know, feels bad, but those are the kinds of plays that separate a team like AMI, especially in the OQ periods here. You know, they've never been the team to slam you in the early game, but they are the team that will play smarter in the mid and late game. Yeah, and they certainly play smarter there, be able to walk away with those picks. Now Protoss, though, going to get found in the jungle, was looking for a potential Tempered Fate angle, or a potential portal in angle, I guess. That ultimate's still on cooldown. Yeah, Crystal going to be able to secure his own birds, and this dragon now going to be on the menu, as securing it would be feats of strength for FBC.
Yeah, they really want to go for this. Aquanic is on the top side, but does have teleport. Honestly, I question whether or not FBC are really in a position to do this, though their backline doesn't have any flash. If Lojaz can find a good Cyclone angle onto the backside of FBC, they really get punished.
Lockdown onto FBC. It was only Fliptick, though, and they get some good return damage onto Protoss. Fliptick burning lower and lower. Aquanic with a big engage, though, gets the fear onto 3.
Oh,
Fate connects onto 3, but stops the knockups of the Rift Herald from coming on through. It's the non-bow from AMI, and Lojaz has to use the Cyclone to retreat. Still firing away. The curtain call is Inori V, but he used both summoner spells, and he didn't get anybody low enough to actually finish the job. Fliptick was able to disengage afterwards. This dragon is going the way of Final Boss Chungus, and with it will be the feats of warfare.
And it was a plethora of errors from FBC in the most recent play toward the Herald, but it's just one mistake from AMI that gives Final Boss Chungus back some of their lead and allows them to get those feats as well as the dragon. That was such an unfortunate Tempered Fate from Protoss. Completely blocks Lojaz's ability to possibly re-engage the fight as that Wukong by getting what could have been a 3-man knockup. Now FBC are in a much better spot because they have the dragon stacking win condition under their thumb, so it is looking up for them slightly, but still, Gordo, I feel like the big issue has to be that other than your Vex, none of these win conditions are really in an accelerated position. I mean, there's no kills on Xin or Renekton or Yunara, and I feel like we're kind of getting to that point where you need to start pressing your win conditions, and the fact that FBC really only have one concrete one, that being the Vex, does mean that AMI have one very clear target that they need to go for. If they can get him, they have a significant chance at winning the fight and reaping whatever rewards are on the map at that time.
Oh, Barbo, a little bit of a face check here, but it is only Lojez and an RAB layering through the damage. Barbo ults himself and will stay alive. There's going to be equalizer thrown down. I spoke too soon. Arbrio lays down the red carpet in just the right position. And that will be a pick, but it is going to cost them the ultimate of the Rumble. Let's see if that's going to be an opportunity to punish. Weaver's Wall from Retrozing cuts off any reinforcements, and another turret will fall for AMI.
And honestly, Barbo was walking that red carpet for way too long, Gordon. That man went back into the equalizer and just decided to get further roasted by Arbrio. So he dies. And honestly, what I kind of feel like was a very avoidable death from the side of Final Boss Chungus. It does give AMI the turret, as you say, and opens up a little bit more of this map to be warded. You can see they place some of that deep vision around this top side, which is going to be very important as that Otacon going to be up in about 15 seconds or so. So both teams, as you can see, channeling their recalls to get items in preparation for fighting this objective.
And that's where a lot of the stress of this game going to come to a head. 2K gold lead for AMI, but we know that FBC could overcome that with a well-placed team fight, especially if they are able to get on towards these carries in the back line with this Vex. 2 items strong. Aquanic in a very good position here and has very, very strong both reset and one-shot potential. Can kind of do it all on this pick from this position if he's able to get a perfectly executed team fight with the backup of the rest of his team, as Dive Buddies to spare as well. But for right now, it's just going to be a brawl over the mid lane wave. Tempered Fate.
And they got Aeon.
Will find its way onto Aeon Crystal, but he's got access to the Crescent card. He's just going to dive in on a Proto. Shadow Surge connects. It's a one-shot from Aquanic. Lojaz comes in with the Cyclone to disengage, but defensive Cyclones, not always the best feeling in the world. Another Shadow Surge comes on out. Arbrio flashes it and will be out to safety, but that is 1 for 0 in favor of FBC.
But that's a lot of ultimates expended by FPC. They're going to go on to this Otacon with the numbers advantage, but the death timer on Protoss is already getting really, really low. And he does have that magical journey to get back to this fight very quickly. So if AMI can stall it out, they can get the numbers back in their favor somewhat.
Yeah, they do have the giant growth though, and they do get the pick onto Lojaz, but he survives with just a sliver. They're all trying to stay inside the redemption, but it's not enough in the face of Arbrio's Flame Spitter, toasting the FBC lineup, and they will be eating rabbit tonight. 2 more kills go the way of AMI, and they're the ones with control over the Otacon. Aquanic not willing to let it go, finds a fear on towards an Ori B, gets good damage onto Arbrio as well, but not able to finish off the job. Shuffled back in by Retrozing and executed by the same. AMI make it 3 and make it Otacon.
And it's a huge shove there from Retrozing to deny FBC from the Otacon. Lojaz playing at the edge there as he's 1 HP, but manages to get out alive. They claim the Otacon. They stop Final Boss Chungus in their tracks, and now they're going to take the resets. You got about 20 seconds until the Cloud Dragon. They should be able to get back onto the map around the same time as Final Boss Chungus, but notably, Aquanic is down. His death timer is desynced, and AMI will have a numbers advantage when reclaiming this part of the map.
Tempered Fate coming out again. Protoss finding Aeon Crystal for the upteeth time. He throws out the Crescent card, but this time it is not enough to stop the engage from AMI. Trigon forced to back on away, returns a little bit of damage. Flip Tick arriving from the bottom flank, as is Aquanic, but the fight is already pretty much done with. And Aeon Crystal's the only victim. Will not be able to contend for this dragon without him, so AMI about to pick up their first of the game.
Yeah, AMI, they were first to the river. They had the numbers advantage. Really big credit there to Protoss for finding that Tempered Fate onto Aeon. We saw how it kind of led to AMI's downfall the last time, where Protoss ults the Xin Zhao, but managed to get picked off himself. That led to FBC, being able to go onto that Otacon. But this time, it is them who manages to get a pick, get the objective without a hitch. And now they are looking really solid in this game. They denied the soul point from Final Boss Chungus, which was at this moment their main win condition. And not just that, but they also shut down Aquanic earlier in that Otacon sequence. So FBC losing a lot of their fangs going in toward that 20-ish minute mark, or past that 20-minute mark, I should say.
Yeah, and we're getting to the stage of the game where, a few AP here and there, usually not going to be the deciding factor in fights, but does suck to lose those Darksteel stacks that you had built up for Aquanic. 5 of them gone. Going to be a solid chunk of AP, maybe about an amp tome's worth, that are no longer in your stats. Going to be looking to see how they're going to be able to win on fights from this position, because continuing to snowball with Aquanic was a very clear path forward. As you were saying, they could continue to fight for those dragons, try to get onto Soul, and they could certainly look to be able to reset across a fight and, you know, just continue to one-shot folks the way that they had been. That window's going to start to close, though. Protoss is going to get a little bit tankier, you know? Arbrio is going to get a little bit tankier. And it's going to be harder and harder to find targets who you actually can 100-0 reset Shadow Surge and threaten to pump out a lot more than you might be worth.
I mean, Vex isn't really known to be like a late game threat, and I think that Aquanic is, you know, getting weaker with every passing minute. You mentioned those Darksteel stacks, but also just the power curve of this champion really doesn't translate well into the 25+ minute mark if you aren't able to keep that snowball going. AMI definitely stopped at that earlier Otacon fight, so now I think you kind of have to transition. You kind of have to pivot, and I think your best bet is the Yunara, who is at 2 items, but once you get 3, that's really when this champion can be a viable threat. But as it stands, it feels like Trigon has been kind of invisible on the Yunara so far. I think that if we are FBC and we're saying, you know, we need to, you know, switch up our carry, we need to get this Yunara in a good position, you have a lot of work and a lot of ground to cover if that is to be reality.
And a big responsibility to put on the shoulders of a player who is pretty new to us. Not seen this man play ACL before, to my knowledge. Could be a rename of somebody from back in the day, but certainly a player that is new to this lineup and relatively new to this league, at least as far as I am aware. It's going to be a tough ask to be able to come out here and, you know, out team fight AMI in a later game stage. This is a team who really does specialize in this sort of play, and they are able to find Aquanic with that Tempered Fate. He's going to be able to flash out to safety. Not a lot of damage found by that curtain call, and Protoss going to get jumped onto by Eon Crystal. Will be able to flee back away. And there's going to be an engage found by Aquanic. Protoss is one shot. As many fights have started this way. A reset onto Shadow Surge, but not an opportunity to take the fight any further. And Barbo going to get fouled by Retrozing. They're going to try to equalize. Aquanic does still have the reset on his Shadow Surge, and it times out without him being able to send it.
But this is an opportunity that FBC, you can see they're not going to let it go to waste. Their posturing on the top side, but I don't think they have the damage, simply put, to go for the Baron here. So instead, they're just going to, you know, send Aquanic up toward that top side to push out the wave, draw some pressure from AMI before this Dragon in a little over a minute. And I do have to commend the stones on Aquanic for that. Bro flashes defensively to get away from, you know, not dying and being picked off by Protoss, but then immediately Shadow Surges back in without that defensive summoner spell. I would not have expected a lot of mid laners to go for that play, but it ends up working out as Protoss, like you said, Gordo, does go down. But now that means no flash for the Vex going forward for this neutral objective in about 40 seconds. So AMI with a clear target, you know, going forward, who they need to focus, I think, is crystal clear.
Absolutely. Definitely a similar case for FBC. I think they've gotten so many of these fights started onto Protoss because he's the one who postures aggressively looking for engage opportunities. If that could be a Nori B or Retrozing or even Arbrio, it would really set up for a really dominant team fight. But ooh, Tempered Fate coming out, not going to find its mark. That's going to be an important tool down. Yeah, Crystal, as always, is looking to get in, is looking to be the person to start these fights, fishing with these Wind Become Lightning and diving in afterwards. But this has all too often been the result, just getting too much damage returned onto him. Will be able to stay standing thanks to the Crescent Guard for the time being, but still getting taken low. And now here's going to be a red carpet laid on out by Arbrio. Inside of it is Trigon, pulled in and finished off. AMI get the primary target down, and they are going to move on to Baron.
And that is so unfortunate for Trigon. He gets hit by the equalizer, rooted in place by the Deadly Flourish, and it's just CC'd long enough for AMI to get on top of him. The AD carry for Final Boss Chungus goes down, and instead of going for the Dragon, denying that soul point, AMI, I think they're going to take the riskier option, which is go to the Baron. They're going to let FBC get their third drink of the game, and this means that you really got to make this Baron count, because if you're not able to, FBC, they claw their way back into this game, and they could get soul, Gordo.
Yeah, what's funny about that is you call that as the riskier play for AMI, and I agree that it is, both because you give Soul point over, but also, I mean, I feel like FBC could have challenged on that a little bit more. You got a really strong Vex here who could just harass with damage, and it took them forever to do that Baron. Your Jin Talia comp not exactly racing through it, but FBC completely seed the objective, and AMI are able to get it for themselves.
Absolutely. So now AMI on a little bit of a timer here to make stuff happen, really make use of this Baron power play, if we want to be fancy with our league lingo, Gordo. Because you have to grow that gold lead enough to where, you know, contesting and winning out on this next dragon fight becomes essentially a given. Obviously, you have less than 4 minutes to do so, but I like what we're seeing. They're taking control of the bot side. They're going for kind of a 4-1 split. Retrozing now has the level 3 Weaver's Wall, so he'll have the ability to really get down toward that bot lane almost instantly if a fight does break out. So I'm not worried about the numbers disadvantage currently plaguing AMI as, yeah, there it is.
Now they're going to have to get onto the other side of this wall, recognizing the threat of a low Jazz engage at their backs. And I mean, this is where the injection of gold from this Baron is really going to come through. They got 1 inner already. They made it 2. Now it's 3. That's a lot of money. They're at nearly 8K gold in the lead now, Quacks. And that is going to be the kind of lead that you can flex and feel confident coming into a potential soul fight with.
And I feel like looking at the item break points right now, it really feels like FBC have kind of hit their stride with the win cons. Vex, you know, acquiring that death cap. So Fliptick going to do a lot of damage. I think that FBC's main focus in a lot of these fights is making sure that Shadow Surge can get proper resets. So you have the damage to back that up. It's just about the target selection and being able to find those moments. And then also kind of your backup carry. He is 0-3, but Yunar on 3 items still does so much damage. If Trigon can have a good team fight, can have space to free hit, FBC can certainly come back into this game. So this would be FBC's moment to fight. If they don't lose too much gold off this Baron push from AMI, and they are actually able to fight for this soul, this would be the time to do so, absolutely.
Completely agree there in a vacuum, and I do think FBC in these item spikes, you know, gives you some hope for them, again, in a vacuum. I do think AMI are right where they want to be, though. This is the way that they have played League of Legends for the majority of 2025, especially in the summer going into fall 2025. This has just been their game, and it looks like they're finally getting back to it here in the ACL Gauntlet. Finding a pick on the Eon Crystal makes it all the more easy, and they have full control over this top side.
But it's not really the focus on the top side that we need to be worried about right now, Gordo. It's that bot side dragging up, and a little over 1 minute and 30 seconds. You can see that bot wave kind of in a bit of a disappointing state here from AMI. I'm actually surprised they're not sending Retrozing, who does have that teleport, over to maybe clear that out, give them priority ahead of the fight. They're just looking, though, into the mid lane. Trigon having to flash, so that'll be down for this upcoming dragon fight, Gordo.
Yeah, just looking to play a little bit faster, a little bit more aggressive with the numbers advantage. Low Jazz going to get taken to about half. You can see Aquanick actually holding on to the Shadow Surge there. Doesn't want to engage the fight without Eon Crystal. Doesn't think that they can win at 5 versus 4 from this gold deficit. And I don't blame them for that thought. So just fishing around, seeing what kinds of resources they can blow off. And at the end of the day, with a minute to go until Dragon, forcing off that flash from Trigon, definitely a big win for AMI.
Absolutely, and FBC now have the arduous task of walking through this bot side river with no vision, no eyes on where the AMI members are, and you know, you get face checked and suddenly you're at a numbers disadvantage ahead of a dragon fight that will essentially dictate, I think, who wins the game and who loses the game, or no.
Yeah, going to try to fight their way in through mid, appears to be the call. Protoss is on the bottom side. Here comes Weaver's Wall. It's going to cut off Eon Crystal and Fliptick from the rest of the team. They are trying to fire away with a Nori B here on the flank. Onto Retrozing comes Aquanick. Did get the Shadow Surge there, but the fight breaking out on the opposite side is all AMI. Already 2-0 for them. Trigon caught up inside of the Tempered Fate, and a 4-0. Make it a clean wipe. 5-0 AMI. finally get the team fight they've been waiting for in the mid lane, and they're gonna close out game number 1.
It's a clean ace from AMI, and off the back of an absolutely killer shove from Retro Sing, they find Flip Tick. FBC fall like dominoes, and AMI dominate the mid and late game to secure the first win of the series.
Huge win for them there. Think that we did get the crash post-pause, but that's okay. I'm feeling pretty confident on who won this one. I don't think we need to see the Nexus explode to know how the rest of that one went.
They could have surrendered. You never know.
They could have surrendered. You're right. That's a definitely a different outcome. It means that the Nexus still explodes, but without the Nexus turrets falling first. Big win here for AMI in what is once again an elimination game. So gonna need to see 2 in a row here for final boss Chungus to stay alive in the ACL. Really well played by them though, going to their strength, going to the late game and pulling ahead for it.
I absolutely love looking at the damage graphs, by the way. Neither team, in both cases, the support out damages at least one member of their team. Bard doing 10,000 with Wukong doing 6.7k, 6.7, and then Lulu doing 6.4k, Renekton 3.7k. I just thought that was a little bit funny, but other than that, really good stuff there from AMI. A little bit suspicious in the early game, but I think the best parts of AMI have always been their mid to late game and their ability to rebound off of deficits from the first 14 minutes, and we certainly saw that play out in this first match.
Absolutely agree with you there. So we're going to have to see if FBC can turn it around and come back as the rest of this series plays out. We're going to throw it to a quick break before we get into game number 2. But first, a word from Zen Market. Zen Market is your one-stop solution for buying products directly from Japan. They'll help you buy items from over 10,000 shops, as well as place bids on auctions on your behalf. They'll even consolidate all your items safely into one box and can ship internationally. They provide excellent customer service in 19 languages, which is why they are trusted by over 2 million users worldwide. Check out the panel below the stream or click the link in chat to try Zen Market out now. If you sign up with code Aegis, you will get 1,000 yen off your first international shipping fee. If you decide to make a purchase, use code Aegis25 to get 25% off your first purchase. Thank you again to Zen Market for supporting Aegis in the ACL, and we will see everybody after a short break.
これ着てみたいな。
ここだって衣装の数がこんなに
迷っちゃいました。ウィッグをお探しです。
リボンの種類が豊富なんですよ。見ます？鎧はどないしよう。空のことを助けなあかんのに。待って、いろいろ教えてくれるのは嬉しいけど大事なのは空。このキャラのアニメ版の衣装が欲しいんだ。サイズはこれ。ウィッグは大丈夫。うん。
ありがとう、ゼンマーケット。
Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's broadcast for the ACL, where we have got ourselves a 1-0 lead for Apex Mission Impossible, trying to keep their ACL run alive. Final boss Chungus now need to win 2 in a row to eliminate AMI and give themselves one more shot at making it into one of those final 2 playoff seeds. I guess next week. It would be a week from today. We're gonna, or no, it would be. It's gonna be on Friday, actually, the 5th. I think we're off Friday and Monday. Yeah, so it would be Friday the 5th will be the final decider games.
Yeah, so like a week and a half. But yeah, I mean, kind of looking back at week number 1 or game number 1, sorry. I feel like FBC, we could definitely see what their plan was, right? You had Aquanic in a really good position, but he really felt like the only pillar that was holding up that early game. And I mean, if you try and build a structure, build a building with one pillar, one support beam, that building's going to topple over, thousands dead, and property damage is going to be in the 100,000s, which is exactly what happened in game number 1. I mean, that really was the only win condition set up by FBC, and I feel like they weren't able to extend it any further once that mid to late game really kind of came around the corner. So going into game number 2, I think that FBC, if they're able to kind of recreate the success of Aquanic in the laning phase, but then also give him, potentially a buddy, potentially a backup win condition, and get him around the map a little bit more frequently toward the mid to late game, they can definitely take this to 3 games. But AMI, I feel like the opposite is kind of what we have to be looking for. Just a stronger early game and, hit the ground running, keep that momentum going from start to finish, and should be a 2-0 and one that I think a lot of people will be convinced by, that this team and this org might have turned it around from some of their early season Aegis woes.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, listen, I said it to you a little bit off stream, somewhat tongue in cheek, but I mean, it's real enough that I'll say it here on cast. It feels like this is like the classic Aquanic game in a lot of ways, is that he'll get ahead by 30 CS, he'll get solo kills, and then the rest of the teams won't be able to convert on it, or he won't be able to convert on it. He'll end up picked off, and he'll end up not losing out on the game as a result. I think there's been a lot of seasons of that, and gonna need to see FBC kind of break out of that pattern. That said, I think you can kind of see the golden path through this game that FBC had for themselves, and it really was kind of a nice edge that they missed it by. It's when they're fighting for that Otacon after making one pick. Right after that, they do have Lojaz in their sights. They have Lojaz kind of picked out a position, taken down to like sub 50 HP. It's just like a little tiny sliver. He gets away, and then they get torched by Arbrio, and they do end up losing out on the fight. So I think there's a world where they, finish off Lojaz there, get some resets where appropriate, and can maybe have a little bit more of a fighting chance there, take the Otacon and continue their snowball. But it's not how it ends up working out for them, and it does end up being an AMI win as a result. So we'll see if they can find a lead like that again, and if they do, if they're going to be able to kind of stick the dismount.
And I would take that a little bit further. I mean, the Otacon fight was one thing, but the Otacon then led into them losing the dragon, and then, continuing to have that soul win condition kind of evade them. So FBC, I think, kind of created a domino effect by Lojaz simply surviving on, like you said, that sub 50 HP, because they got 2 objectives off of it and multiple kills to follow up, which really just negated FBC's win conditions from there on out, and they were never really to get out of that hole. So yeah, I think that if they are just a little bit more cautious around objectives, or at least know when to hit the brakes, if they do find themselves behind a little bit, they can definitely make this game a little bit more competitive around the later stages. As we are getting close to finishing out the bans here, we are swapped on the sides. AMI on that blue, there are still plenty of B1 picks up and available. That Azir being banned, and one more ban available here for FBC. They actually don't ban the Orianna, so AMI have the opportunity to just slam that on one, but they're gonna go for the Ambessa instead. So FBC could actually be the ones going for that Orianna and maybe trying to pair it up with another aggressive jungler. Xin Zhao taken away does limit that pool a little bit, but there are definitely still options.
Yeah, interesting to see this come on through for Arbrio. Not sure exact reasons as to why Decoy's not in the lineup right now, but I think Decoy has traditionally kind of been a big X factor for this team and a player that they really leaned on to kind of be that kind of big individual carry in a squad where, you know, they especially don't really get it from mid lane. I think Retro Zing, a little bit more of a control mage player, a little bit more of a supportive mid laner, which is perfectly fine to have on a team like this, but it's been something that they've liked to lean on when they can. So they snap up an early Ambessa, keeping in theme with that. It's also a pick that Arbrio's plenty comfortable with. And then the Yorick going to be the counter pick here for Fliptick. Wants to try to punish that pick however possible, and they do grab themselves a Pantheon for Colton.
And now I do kind of wonder, AMI are just going to grab
it's not
up
Colton. It's Aeon Crystal. My bad.
Yep. So they are going to grab up the Orianna for Retrozing, no mistaking that one. And I would imagine they probably just, complete their top side here on 3. I think that the most likely thing for Low Jazz here, I mean, you could do something like the Trundle if you really wanted to. Like if you're concerned about this, Yorick's ability to side lane, I think Trundle would have a decent amount of value into it. You do lose a little bit of that Shockwave combo, so that's maybe where something like a Skarner could come in, a Nocturne could come in, but I think then you lose, maybe being able to play around this Ambessa around the laning phase, because those champions take a little bit longer to cook. So AMI, I think, going to have to decide which of those options to take, and they will go for the Nocturne. So Nocturne Orianna, not too bad, but similar to the Wukong, you really are waiting for that level 6 before you can really get the full efficiency of this champion.
Yeah, which is on theme for AMI, right? I think this is a team that loves themselves a little bit of Orianna Nocturne. They're playing into the promo tournament to be able to qualify for NACL, and they were able to win out games with it there. They're going to play it here as they try to promote their way to playoffs. I did call it. I did tell you he was going to pick Ari in game number 2, and that it may play out pretty similarly unless FBC can make some big changes. We will find out, but so far they are fulfilling the prophecy, Quacks.
And now I'm kind of curious what both of these teams are thinking for their bot sides, because right now I think the damage profile is pretty complete. I mean, each team having a magic damage threat, having a good amount of engage, especially AMI. You've got the public execution plus the paranoia. On top of that, you also have the shockwave to give a little bit more of an extra punch to that initial fight starting from AMI. FBC do have the Pantheon, do have the Ari, but maybe want a little bit more security in starting up those fights. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see Barbo go for something like the Maokai. I think actually could have a lot of value in this game. So do think that there is a pretty solid chance we just see an engage support snapped up, likely on 5. I would imagine that we'll probably be saving counter pick as FBC for Barbo and picking an 80 carry on 4 here, which really feels like it's just open to interpretation what you could go. I mean, you are pretty short range, so I wouldn't hate a Corki. I wouldn't hate a Lucian. I also wouldn't hate, if you wanted to, something like a Kaisa, I think could work if you're really trying to go hard in the paint on starting up the fights and just going full dive mode.
Yeah, and that's something that's kind of way up in the air here if it's still going to be Pi Trigon in the lineup, because this is a player that we're not super familiar with. It's not Handy Taco. We saw him in Twitch chat earlier saying he's on vacation, so good for you, man.
Hey, enjoy your vacation, man.
Yeah, enjoy your time off. Hope you're enjoying watching ACL from wherever you are holed up for the time being, but it does leave a lot of questions, presumably for AMI as well as us, as to what exactly Pi Trigon's champion pool is going to look like and what he's going to be willing to bring to the table for this FBC lineup. So we'll find out. It's kind of it doesn't surprise me to see AMI banning out supports. They do take away the Ezreal as something worthy of consideration from the FBC lineup, as that would also be a pick that's quite good up against this kind of heavy dive setup that Ambessa and Nocturne bring to the table.
All right, so Corki banned away. I think Tristana, Yeah,
Okay.
Tristana's a pretty good option. I was thinking maybe Lucian would be good here, but I do think that Buster Shot has a lot of value because AMI are going to be looking to engage onto you at every possible opportunity. So just having that built-in disengage, that built-in knockback could come in handy. And I think that this just segues perfectly into getting an engage support. So I wouldn't hate the Maokai. I wouldn't hate the Rakan. Rakan is actually banned. So you could do Maokai. You could do, even something like the Nautilus. But AMI are actually just going straight up killer mode where Anori B is going the champion that he is famous for, Gordo Draven, going to be locked in. And now this really interests me because Protoss goes for a lot of those enchanter supports, which aren't traditionally the best paired up with Draven. Draven loves his engage support, so that means that Protoss might have to be a little bit uncomfortable here. He does have 2 games on the Leona, so maybe comfort isn't as big of a problem as we initially thought, but this is AMI just going straight for the throat. This is full engage, full aggression, and once they hit level 6, this is really a comp that is going to be all gas, no brakes.
Yeah, Barbo going to snap up this Braum to try to give a little bit of disengage, give a little bit of power to be able to delete some of those spinning axes as necessary, and try to get them out of a dangerous lane state where one does occur. But yeah, I mean, this is all the makings of a welcome to ACL moment for Mr. Pytragon and his first series here, as Inori B Draven is locked in opposite him, as well as Oriana Nocturne and Bessa. So there's going to be a lot of people flying at you. You're going to have to play real well to keep yourself consistently safe, or at least to only get blown up in situations where it is advantageous for your team in the follow-up team fight. Best of luck, my friend. That's all I can say coming into this one, as AMI certainly drafting to smash bot lane.
This gives me like deja vu of an LPL series that I casted a few months ago where I believe it was Thunder Talk or LNG, one of the two, if I'm not mistaken, subbed in one of their AD carrier Fish One. This is his first game ever in tier 1, and I think he went like Smolder. Enemy team literally would not let him rest, would not let him sleep, would not let him stack. They literally went straight for him every single time, and this is giving the same exact energy. You're going onto the Tristana, you do have that disengage, but so many members of AMI have the ability to get on top of you, and you can really only disengage onto one of them with that Buster Shot, unless they're all grouped together, in which case you can hit all of them. So it's going to be a pretty rough game here for Tristana, but for AMI, I feel like it is just going to be about making sure this Draven is ahead, because this is very much a feast or famine champion, and Nori B, very good on this character, so if you can unlock him, he has the potential to really carry a game, which is something that I really want to see Nori B do. I feel like this guy's been a little bit quiet performance-wise since his breakout year back in 2024, so if we can see, kind of that killer instinct come alive here on AMI again, I will be very happy to maybe see the Inori B stonks rise up once again.
Absolutely here, and it's not the time for mercy if you're AMI, right? This is an elimination series
Kill them all.
for ACL. AMI coming in as a pool 2 team, certainly disappointed with their season so far here. Even if they win out and make playoffs, they're going to be as a bottom 2 seed. They're still going to be disappointed. And it's kind of have to take a really strong lower bracket playoffs run from them to really turn around and feel satisfied about this ACL season. And that's going to mean winning a lot of series in a row, starting with this one. So let's find out if the AMI comeback story begins here, or if Final Boss Chungus can take us to a game number 3.
And this snow about to get a whole lot more red, as both of these teams wanting to spill as much blood as possible as soon as possible, really looking at that bot lane to be the main point of contention. And I think that's an area where FBC might have what's up.
I'm just that was good. It was good spacing at level 1 there. Aquanic wins that trade.
I got concerned. I was like, wait, did someone flash? So I quickly looked at the summoner spells.
I just saw somebody dodge a command attack on foot at level 1, and that gets me excited.
As the Oriana main, that's not something you're used to seeing.
I'm not. And also, yeah, if I miss a command attack on somebody dodging on foot at level 1, I think that might be the game right there. So eyes on Retrozing for the mental stability.
Okay, all right. Retro Zing with the losing the mental game, it seems, according to my co-caster. But I mean, we are expecting Aquanic to maybe have a more favorable matchup here in the laning phase. I mean, we saw him dominate as, okay, hold on, we're already fighting.
All right, Inori B Draven 101 going right in for the battle, starting.
Bro has base skin.
1. He does have base skin.
That's L9 right there. I mean, it's like, how do you know a Draven is gonna smurf? Man either has Gladiator or he's a base Draven. That is, like, those are the scariest Dravens of all time. Those are some of the scariest players of all time. Add in like a barcode name. GG, you've lost from, you want to talk about the real mind control. It's not dodging the command attack. It's seeing base skin Draven with barcode name.
You know what's funny is streamer mode exists now, so we may be in a post barcode name era. We may not really see those very much anymore. That's going to be a shame. That's going to be a major loss. I miss ACL seasons, or I will miss ACL seasons where we had multiple players with barcode names, just struggling to identify who's who, especially if they ended up in a game together. But that said, Aquanic gonna take up level 3 here, connects a nice charm. Here comes Eon Crystal for the backup, gonna find the stun through Retro Zing's flash, and this is looking like first blood for Eon Crystal. Final boss Chungus on the board.
And I love that from Aeon Crystal, immediately recognizing, hey, I have the advantage pre-level 6 compared to my counterpart. I'm going to make it count. He goes for the 3 camp into a gank, and they immediately snag a kill onto Retro Zing. Pantheon going to claim that one. He will be a little bit behind in clearing, at least compared to the Nocturne. So might not be able to secure this crab, especially because he doesn't have bot lane priority, but it is absolutely worth it to get the snowball rolling here for final boss Chungus in game 2.
Yeah, Fliptick. It's the lockdown there onto Arbrio, and he's going to find himself a pretty solid trade as a result. Arbrio holding on to that flash. Now a fight bringing out of the bottom side. Pydragon going to be able to find that stun off the concussive blows onto Protoss. Gets the reset, jumps forward for more, but Lojaz is here. And Lojaz with Inori B has got the damage. First reset of the game onto the Draven, and he's about to cash out for a double kill. Inori B's on the board.
Inori B with the double kill to start out on the champion that he created his name with. It will be a double for AMI in retaliation, and now Lojaz might be in trouble, and he does have the flash.
Now going to have to get out of there, gets stunned over the wall, but no opportunity to pursue. Aquanic not going to use the flash on that one. And it will be AMI taking the lead right back for themselves off of a really well-played bot lane fight, just not respecting the potential for the Doctor to show up.
And now it's just a matter of keeping their ball in their own court, or keeping the ball in their own court, right? Because AMI, not known for their early games, now they have the early game advantage. If you can keep this gold lead in the bot lane stable for Inori B, or at least consistent for Inori B, it'll just mean that FBC really going to have a difficult time getting Pydragon back onto the map as Aquanic gets his charm dodged.
Yeah, and now has to flash out defensively. Retro Zing has a nice easy time of cleaning that one out. FBC feeling like they need to get something on the board to try to deal with this already fed Draven, but they are going to get beaten for their efforts on Crystal. Gave away the ghost too soon, hunted down and turned into a ghost by Lojaz.
This tier 2 chickens completely taken away. Continuing with the theme of losing the mental game, this is the ultimate salt in the wound for any jungler. Long gone are the days of getting double crabbed. GG, I lost the neutral objective. The new version of that is getting your chickens stolen away when they respawn. So Lojaz is going to be very happy with getting a kill, collecting that gold, and then securing that objective in the enemy jungle's side, or rather just the camp, not the objective, in the enemy jungle side. Really good stuff from AMI in this early game. And like we keep saying, this is where they are, known to be the weakest. If they can continue this, it'll be a very clean game 2.
Absolutely. And Inori B right where he feels most comfortable. Multiple kills in on the early game. Draven gonna try to flex in this phase. You said if they can maintain this lead, it's gonna be huge for them. Knowing Inori B, he's going to try to build on it. He's going to try to take this lead even further, and already trying their best to kind of handle it is why FBC have rotated their lane matchups up like this, putting Flip Tick alongside Barbo for a little bit of additional sustain, a little bit of additional safety for Pi Trigon, but he's struggling in lane against Darbrio too.
Pi Trigon not having a great time in this game so far. On the Tristana, obviously getting taken down early in this game. Still does hold on to that flash, but you can already see his health bar is dangerously low, so he has to reset on the crashing wave, and so he misses out on a good amount of experience. This just really furthers that gap between the cash out double killed Draven, who has a BF sword, along with a Cole, so that gap lead will actually grow later down the line, versus Pi Trigon, who has a slingshot.
Yep, it's going to be a while before Pi Trigon is going to be able to match the damage output of this Draven, and going to need a lot of levels to get the range to be able to stay outside of his grasp. The time being a major lead to AMI wherever Draven appears on the map. You know that Anori is well versed on the mechanics of this champion, keeps up his movement speed stacks, keeps himself in safe positions to be able to continue dishing out the damage, and knows the thresholds where he can be able to pick off a straggler in quick order. Hitting level 6 now, going to have access to the Whirling Death to boot. Just going to make things even tougher to lane up against this guy.
I've always said that I think Whirling Death is literally one of the hardest spells in League of Legends to hit, which is why you see so many Dravens are flash, because they try to hide the animation slightly because it's so telegraphed. I am curious to see how Anori uses this ultimate, because I feel like this is partially why Draven is such a niche pick. Man's ultimate is so easy to predict and so hard to hit that he basically only comes into the game and stays into the game with 4 spells.
Yeah. There is also kind of the play style where you just never get your kills, and which is obviously not ideal, but you stack up a million passive stacks, and then that increases your execute damage, so you can like one-shot people with it. But not going to be quite the approach they're going for this game, as he did already cash out twice in pretty quick succession. Already getting those stacks back up though, as it's been a while since that started, and just going to keep this wave shoved into Pi Trigon's face. Actually gets a recall interrupted there. Stood a little too close to an explosive shot minion.
That's a little bit unfortunate, as Pi Trigon, in fairness, the man did also get his recall canceled just a few seconds ago, so it's unintentional revenge for that. As we can see now, by lane swapping their pieces back, so Anori and Protoss going to be around the bot side. Similar to last game, Dragon kind of being forsaken until a lot later in the game time, not being focused down immediately by either squad. They really are just putting a lot of onus on the Grubs, which AMI did claim. We did miss that a couple of minutes ago, but now because you've got the swap, and because frankly you've got the damage advantage with the 2-0 Draven, I feel like they should have no issue just, you know, claiming this river, which is what they're doing, and immediately snagging up their second objective. Yeah,
ideally FBC can drag this out for a little while, just create a one-on-one for Flip Tick on this Yorick. Is the matchup that they
Jess has ultimate
in. But looking like there might be a dive coming into this
the combo.
Already make life difficult. It's an early TP from Aquanic to try to get over here in time. Pi Trigon going to be able to flash away in time to be able to get himself out of here. Here comes the Ari as well as Eon Crystal, who does flash back underneath the turret. Execution on a low jazz found by Aquanic. That's going to give him an additional stack of the Spirit Rush. Now they've got 3 members corralled. They're going to throw down the Glacial Fissure to try to slow them up a little bit more. But Aquanic just trying to create the space. The health bars are low across the rest of the board, so it's going to be hard to find more targets to execute. And Aquanic still stepping up, still playing aggressively, gets a charm onto Anori. There's going to be the stun, trying to come through from the concussive blows. He gets both passes of the orb, gets the shutdown. There's a kill for Pi Trigon as well. Retrozing now stuck in a 1 versus 3, only able to finish up the support. Final boss, Chungus, find the fight that they needed in the bottom lane.
And Aquanic so good at saving that play. He teleports down, secures a kill onto low jazz, gets the resets, and then slow and steady wins the race. FBC take their time, you know, tighten their grasp over the surviving AMI members, and then the charm getting hit onto Anori opens up the floodgates for the rest of final boss Chungus on the other side to get onto the Draven. They find the kill onto Anori, they take down all of AMI, and they rebound the game.
And it looked like it was gonna be another comedy of errors, Quacks. Trigon gets dove, loses all his health, flashes out at just the last moment, but doesn't go down. Then the exact same thing happens to Eon Crystal, barely stays alive thanks to his flash and the addition of his shield. And Aquanick's arrival on the slow TP gets himself in there to be able to find the kills, able to find the resets, and able to corral the remaining members into a knife's edge team fight.
Crucial for FBC to win that fight, because if that tower dive went well for them, if they did manage to get the one shot onto Trigon, that gives another kill over to Inori B, it likely actually might have gave the turret over to AMI, because they have the 3 grubs and just more members down in that area. So then they would have been able to turn that into a dragon. It could have been the domino effect that we saw in game number 1, Gordo, taken into this second game, but it gets stopped. FBC managed to find their moment, and a glimmer of hope to get back into this game makes itself known.
Well, still a lot of pressure onto this bot side turret from Inori B and Protoss, and still a 2 versus 2 that they do not fare too well in.
Doesn't have flash.
They did manage to snag some stuns on towards Inori B, and that's enough for Trigon to start to reset. Nice double stun comes through from the solar flare.
The dragon
Protoss should be able to create the space to get away, but now they see Low Jazz doing the dragon, and Eon Crystal questions, what are you doing here, buddy? This does not belong to you. This is an FBC dragon, and they will be able to secure it.
And Aeon doesn't even have smite. My man straight up intimidated Low Jazz with a 50-50. That was not possible. And gets the Drake for himself. Now Protoss trying to freeze the wave. You're too far.
Well, Arbrio's getting involved.
Maybe
though.
not.
Public execution finds its way out of Trigon. They need to be able to finish this damage in time. And here is Eon Crystal with the dive. Gets in there off of that man drop and will be enough to be able to get them out.
I don't think I've ever heard someone use the term man drop, but it's very appropriate.
That's an old, that's like old Pantheon ult. Nobody really calls it that anymore, but when it was a big circle, that was the name.
Baker Boy drop is something that I heard, but I'll go with man drop, because I feel like, you know, Pantheon preaches how much
Starfall now, yada yada yada.
I mean, Pantheon, in fairness, Pantheon, since the rework, has preached about how much of a man he is, right? You know, he always talks about that. So I think man drop is actually somehow more appropriate now than it was pre-rework.
That's fair. That's fair. He slides now. It's not just one big circle the way it used to be. It was a lot more, you know. I don't know. It was funnier. It wasn't better, but it was funnier. And it was just a big red
style
circle.
too.
Yeah. It was a stylistic choice. We'll call it that. Though the new one, certainly stylish as well. And we do have a little bit of time on the map to talk about nothing, because we're just going to be farming up for a little while. No more objectives on the table until this Rift Herald spawns in about 30 seconds, and a little bit more attention paid towards the top side from both of the bot lanes as a result. Not going to have that Grand Starfall ready at that time, but the side laning for Flip Tick into Arbrio has been going pretty well, and with no TPs, they're going to be on an island.
And Inori B, having that flash up again means that AMI could look for an aggressive play if they find themselves up in numbers, which they do not on the top side, but they're going in anyway.
Yeah, looking to get the one shot onto Protoss. Still pretty tanky, but will be able to work their way through it. It does cost them a lot of Aquanick's health, though. They've got Inori B right where they want him. Stun comes on across, but the follow-up damage does not. The rest of FBC trying to back away, not wanting to be the one who gives over a big pile of gold into Inori B's pockets. Eon Crystal has to flash away as well, and Retro Zing, full mana, decent health bar, feels like he can keep this fight going. Dustspringer going to come through, trying to interrupt the recall on Aquanick, but he is able to get it through in time. Now he's the one TP and going over towards
Trigon,
trying to respond on towards Arbrio. Trigon getting in there onto Low Jazz, finds the reset, flashes backwards, and it makes this a positive fight for FBC, but the pressure onto the turret still coming on through. Retro's going to be running out of minions, going to have to call it a pause for now, but the low health bars from FBC mean that they're just going to be able to keep on pushing.
The other side of the map, Flip Tickets on the tier 2. AMI have to desperation recall to stop this Yorick, but that recalls will get canceled by FBC. It's 2 turrets on the bot side for final boss Chungus, and it's basically nothing for AMI on the top side. They do a little bit of damage to that tier 1, but they don't claim it, Gordo.
I keep saying it. They're not able to capitalize on these 4-on-4s where it feels like they should be stronger because of that early double kill onto the Draven. They can't actually capitalize, and the side lane favors Fliptic all day long. The longer this guy can be 1v1 or 1v0, the better he's going to do. He gets the 1v0 that time, picks up an inner turret.
And I feel like you were talking about the follow-up damage, but I feel like the follow-up CC also really isn't there for AMI. I mean, they get the Shockwave combo. Low Jazz manages to find his fear, but with Protoss down, you really don't have any other sources of lockdown. So AMI, who really wanted to continue that fight, not only do they not have the damage to do so, but they don't have the ability to close that gap and find the crowd control onto the FBC members. So it feels really rough losing Protoss in these fights, which is kind of not something you want to hear, because the Leona, more times than not, will be one of your primary engage tools. And if you don't find the fight and win it instantly, you're going to have a really tough time getting another opportunity to re-engage.
And I am probably... Ooh, there's going to be an engage actually coming in onto Fliptic, trying to overload the side lane. Fliptic doing his best to try to walk it out. He's actually getting a ton of damage onto Low Jazz, flashing after him. But Low Jazz able to keep his space for the time being. The Maiden taking Low Jazz lower and lower. Fliptic finishes him off. The Maiden takes down the kill, and he stays alive for way too long. Now the rest of Final Boss Chungus coming up here. Do they want the follow-up fight? Proto certainly does. Gets the Zenith Blade in on there, but loses a lot of his HP for it. There's the public to the back line and finds his way into Barbo. Trigon going to be able to flash his way out. Arboreo's still dancing through the fight, but the damage threat of the Tristana just a little bit too much, and they will be forced to back away. Meanwhile, Aquanic sieging on the bottom side inhibitor turret.
They have to go back. They have to stop Aquanic, and this gives FBC the opportunity to reclaim some of this top side. Despite them losing their top laner, they're going to get push in mid. They're going to get maybe some vision down on that top side, and they're going to claim more of the map in their favor, because having those two turrets down in bot lane means it is so difficult for AMI to actually get vision around that area without risking face checks, Gordo.
And now the Dragon going to be the next target here for them, and they should be able to finish it off. It's not looking like AMI going to be able to put themselves together a defense of this one. They're going to try to trade it for the Rift Herald, but FBC have a chance to rotate over here, and Ori B doing a good job of spacing out away from that Winter's Bite. And they will not move over towards the Herald. They're just going to take their resets after and say, we're happy to get 2 Dragons in a row. We're happy to have won the fights that we won, and we're scaling.
And I feel like this Rift Herald probably not going to be, around by the time the next Dragon comes up, which does mean that AMI... Hold on, Grand Starfall coming onto the bot side.
Yeah, looking for Arborio. They get the stun, they guarantee the charm, and I think they're going to be able to one-shot this guy. Trying his best to be able to kite it out. Gets another shield from RetroZing. And RetroZing choosing to move towards the bottom side may be the difference that keeps them alive here. Now Low Jazz making a play in towards mid. Knows that he's going to be able to guarantee this fear on towards Trigon. RetroZing finished off Eon on the bottom side. Nori B and Low Jazz looking to run down a double kill in mid. Barbo barely navigates his way out of there. And everything goes wrong for Final Boss Chungus on a forced play in bot.
Keep chasing Arbrio.
Yeah, Arbrio going to be able to dive forward with the public execution. Fliptic going to do his best to be able to turn this one around. The cat.
Yo, that champ's broken, dog. What?
Out of there. It's a little broken, and he gets away.
Somehow, Fliptic manages to live that. Arbrio not able to secure a kill on the top side, but AMI winning out in every other lane there, Gordo. I was going to say before the Grand Starfall from Aeon that because you won't have this Herald up for the Dragon, you won't be able to use that to, gain priority for this next objective and stop that soul point. One thing that you can do as AMI is use this to further a snowball. You get some kills, you use Herald to make a bad situation for FBC into a worse situation. And that's precisely what they do. They get kills in mid, they Herald, they take 2 turrets, and suddenly the map that was open for FBC on the bot side is equally as open for AMI in the middle lane.
Great to have that control over mid as well. Lets them put more of these wards up deeper into the enemy jungle with relative safety and spot out anyone from FBC coming in to try to challenge on towards this Otacon. Aquanic in a safe position here, has the full wards, but Protoss snags him with a well-placed Zenith Blade anyway, and Aquanic will be forced to use the Spirit Rush. Shockwave comes through in mid. They think they got an angle on a Trigon. He's going to be able to jump back, but he lost so much health already that this fight is pretty much done and dusted. They're going to have to trade Otacon for top lane pressure.
but they have to get someone toward that top side. I mean, if you sacrifice 2 turrets to do it, I still think it's worth it, but it can be avoided. Retrozing does have the teleport. I wonder if he's going to use it. It doesn't look like he's going to, so yeah, Fliptic should have no issue as... All right, there it goes. There we go. He might actually still get the tower.
Yeah, it might be too late. I mean, Fliptic going to be able to just continue to queue this thing. Another wave is coming in, and I mean, Retrozing's got to be careful about getting turned around onto. I think a little late on that TP from Retrozing as Fliptic finds his man or his structure.
Still definitely worth it for AMI. They get the Otacon and now are going to be coming into this next Dragon fight a lot stronger than they were just a few minutes ago. Nori B playing on a knife's edge 1v3, just dodging out the skill shots casually like it's no big deal. That charm lands, by the way. He is a dead man, and AMI might have to surrender control of this bot side river.
Yeah, getting the stun up here on towards Protoss. Aquanic going to be able to connect a charm as well. They take him to about half HP, but again, Aftershock, a hell of a drug. And they managed to stay alive with how tanky they have become. Not going to be able to finish off that pick, and we're going to be a relatively even play.
Dragging up in a little over a minute here. You can see both teams really vying to get control of that mid lane so that they can roam on down toward that bot side river, start placing some of those wards. Barbo is actually going to be able to clear out some vision here. You can see that control ward going to be claimed. That's not the only vision that AMI have, though, so you have to be a little bit more exploratory if you want to make the map dark for AMI ahead of this objective. But I also think another really big thing is that Aeon, no flash on the Pantheon. He is going to be, without that defensive summoner spell, obviously does have the block, but he is going to be the #1 target that FBC want to keep alive ahead of this neutral objective because he is their key to securing it. And this is sole point, so this is a massive win con. If your jungler dies, you know, too early in this fight, that means you lose out on the objective, or at the very least you stall it out and maybe give AMI another chance at, you know, getting control of it.
Yeah, so I want to call out here Aquanic, who just TP'd in, goes second item Zonia's, so a little bit lower on the damage output front, but improves his ability to run interference for Pi Trigon, which I think is kind of the main goal of him in these upcoming fights, right? They want to make sure that they're going to be able to get this Tristana.
Oh, here we go.
Here's going to be an engage. They don't go for the ulti combo, but they do get locked down here on towards Xeon Crystal. Can he throw up the shield in time? Does end up going down. Successful pick, even without using Shockwave. Retrozing still with that tool for the potential follow-up fight. Aquanic looking around on the flank, not going to connect the charm, and the health bars not looking too shabby for AMI, given that they did just make that pick.
I think they're rage baiting FBC to try and overstep their bounds.
Trying to step him up forward. Aquanic goes into the stasis, but there's no damage here on the other side. They're going to try to make a play on towards an Nori. They managed to blow him up. Barbo finishes him up. Aquanic got away with Flash and Spirit Rush outside of the stasis, so it is just a quick pick onto a Nori B. Costs them a lot on the other side, though. Fliptic going to try to step up. Lojaz starting to pump the damage on through, and Arbrio going to back him up. Fliptic has to black flash away, and they are going to be...
Aeon is back on the map.
Pi Trigon, Eon Crystal back alive, as you called out. Grand Starfall going to get him back in the mix, and AMI realized the threat and back away.
I feel like AMI just screw around a little too much there. Nori B is separated from the team. FBC, they hold on, they stall out, and now they're going to have a numbers advantage ahead of this dragon. They're just going to rush it down without giving any kind of a reprieve available for AMI.
And now going to be able to get themselves on a soul point, like you say. Final boss Chungus keeping themselves in the mix in game number 2. They do not want to go quietly out of the ACL. And Pi Trigon, I think we're probably going to owe him an apology by the end of this game, Quacks. If you're not familiar with his game, we spent the whole wait time getting into game talking about how this very well could be a welcome to ACL moment. Facing down a Nori B Draven, but he's performed excellently.
This isn't a welcome to ACL moment for Pi Trigon. This is a Pi Trigon, you know, saying, hey, everyone, he's welcoming ACL to him. The roles are reversed in this game, it feels like.
Definitely get into that territory. Potential breakout game, potential name maker for Pi Trigon in this series, but needs to be able to close it out in a solid position now, getting a lot of levels under this Tristana's belt. 2.5 items completed already. Should have the third before too long. and needs to be able to find these team fights. That last one disjointed, like the aggressive call from him and Barbo to get in there and take out Inori B using Stand Behind Me to make sure that they would be able to stay alive and that they would be able to prevent any actual damage from coming through on towards the Tristana so that they can take him out. But it doesn't lead to a fight win necessarily. It gets them the dragon, it gets them a 1-for-1, but it's not going to catapult them into a tremendous lead.
You know, I find it really funny that we're talking about the grim realities of this game and we're, you know, kind of being positive, negative. We're talking about the game, and all the while this like incredibly uplifting winter music is just quite loud. So it feels like it really does not fit the tone. You ever seen that that girl where she's singing the apple bottom jeans and then her mother comes into the room and yells at her? But the song is
part
still
of this TikTok generation, man. Oh, here comes Lockdown out towards Barbo. He's about to drop it, and Nori B gonna clean that one up. Aquanick arrives to the scene, fires off a charm, does get it out of Protos, but again, tanky Leona, and not the highest damage Ari build either. Gonna be able to walk that one off in no time flat. And full control over this top river for AMI. Aquanick stepping up past Lojaz, now realizing it, and that's gonna be Spirit Rush right out.
They have to rush the Baron. I feel like this is their only play. They're trying to bait FBC into walking on this topside blind, but FBC, they're not going to fall for these shenanigans.
Oh, but they are going to snag a raw public execution onto Trigon.
They got him.
The flash out after they get Aeon Crystal as well. Arbrio finding an angle where none was to be found, and this can be Baron for AMI.
They have to rush it. I mean, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. AMI got fooled at the most recent Dragon. They didn't pull the trigger on it. They gave FBC Soul Point, but now is your chance to remedy that. They're onto the Baron, Gordo.
Yeah, trying to go forward for a little bit more. The Baron falling below 3k HP. Not able to get onto it with Aquanick's Orb of Deception. And now they're going to pick off some more. Flip tick up too far. Going to get finished off by all three members of AMI. And Ori B trying to find a stand aside for a little additional CC. Will not be able to connect it. And FBC, once again, the lead that they had built up crumbles in front of them. And AMI pull themselves back ahead.
They have a little less than 90 seconds to get control of mid and bot, so much so that they can really posture for this Dragon. FBC, they may have lost the Baron, they may have lost some members, and the gold may have gone into AMI's favor, but they still have the Soul win condition. So AMI need to make sure that they get rid of that as well. This could be a fight that puts FBC right back into the driver's seat before anyone even noticed that they left. But you can see Protos, I love the positioning on this Leona. He's walking so far up knowing that he has the safety of the rest of his team right behind him. They will get control of this river. These deep wards as well, going to make it so hard for FBC to step into the bot side. And they should be all set for the Dragon. Now it's just a matter of being able to actually hit the objective.
Yeah, trying to work their way through this inner turret, and they will do so. Now here comes a Paranoia. Aquanick going to be able to nullify it with a stasis, but they time the solar flare well enough to take him out. Now AMI, Baron at their backs, free reign to take bot side inhibitor. Will they look for more?
They're not even bothering with the Dragon. They're saying, you know, we can siege the base. We're going to go for a true Baron power play here. We're going to get double inhibitor, and only then are we going to back off. AMI prioritizing the correct thing, understanding that they have full control over the river and it cannot be wrestled back. They take their time. And they get the patience that they need. It pays off, and now the soul will be denied for FBC, along with 2 inhibitors shattered in their base.
And a tremendous lead now found by AMI, not just in gold, but on the map, thanks to the taking of those 2 inhibitors. It's going to be constant pressure coming in. All the objectives are gone from the map, so FBC can take it easy for a little bit, try to just farm and shove up these waves, but A, if you overstep, you're going to get Nocturne comboed, and B, eventually you're going to have to wander out here to contest the next objective, and it is going to be difficult against this AMI team.
This is a Draven that's almost full build and now 2 levels up over his counterpart. I feel like AMI have all the signs to just pull the trigger, just go directly in. This is what your comp was built around, and I think you finally have the breakpoints, the item advantage, and frankly, just the strength to actually go for that. So this should be how they end the game. You can see that the ball is on Low Jazz. Are they going to look for an angle? Paranoia is up.
Going to need to evaluate whether or not they can withstand this engage here on the FBC side. Getting the disengage and then turning it back for a win has got to be the game plan, but it is easier said than done. Need to be able to use this Glacial Fissure to be able to pull somebody back away. They get a little bit of damage on a Protoss, but feel like a broken record here. The Leona will absorb these all day long. They would need a priority target, and they need to keep Trigon safe.
Trigon has the flash, the buster shot. We talked about that peeling draft, and it has serviced him well, but not well enough, as now AMI looking to break open the last turret on the opening of the base here for FBC. The wave on the bot side actually flooding in, so their attention is really divided on these waves. It might give AMI an opening to crack open this top side, Gordo.
Yeah, just trying to keep on working on these inhibitors if an opening is not made by FBC. Clearing out these waves in pretty short order, though, with high Trigon's damage. Nice fishing with the charm there, not quite finding its way on towards Retrozing, though. Can they continue to sustain against this siege? For the time being, it looks like the answer is yes. We are 90 seconds away from the next Baron, but for now, FBC will hold the line.
FBC probably have one more chance to remedy this game and take us to a game number 3. Look at the inventories right now. Aquanic has the nice little fancy hat in inventory, so we'll be rocking that death cap. The Ari dealing a lot of damage, I would assume, with that, and then also to the Tristana closing in on full build. The win conditions that FBC built up, now would be the time to really exert that forward, but it feels so difficult to do so when AMI are so in your face. This Protoss may be caught. He is in the play place.
Yeah, they are going to try to lock him down here. There is going to be an ultimate coming on out. Solar Flare connects only on towards the Maiden. Fliptic flashes for some more. Not going to be able to finish it off. And there's a Shockwave connecting on it too. By Trigon down below half HP already. And Arbrio coming in for him on the flank. Going to be able to evade on toward that public. Arbrio throws himself in, trying to slow up all 5 members. Low health bars across the board, but nobody falls down. Fliptic going to be able to trade on towards Arbrio. He's still standing. He's still drain taking. He takes out Nori B, and he takes on all comers. Finally will fall down, but Eon Crystal is there to finish his work. It's an ace for 1 to final boss Chungus.
FBC find their moment. They save the game. The Baron is up. It's so long on the death timers. All of AMI are eliminated. They will claim this objective. They will save their base. They will save their game. And they will save their season for the time being, Gordo.
And it's once again shades of that bottom side dive gone awry. Trigon survives on a sliver of HP. Fliptic survives on a sliver of HP time and time again. And they find the perfect moment to re-engage with those slivers. They take down each and every member of AMI. They use each of their health bars as a resource to their absolute limit. And FBC come up with the fight win. Gold is now dead even. 15 seconds until Dragon Soul.
They gotta haul ass. AMI, they have to clear out the mid wave. They have to get priority. They have to move into the river, which they don't have any vision of, by the way. This is a dangerous game for them to play. That crab is also still up. Whoever can claim it will have an advantage in the river, but the FBC are here first.
Yeah, it's going to be Protoss throwing himself in with the Zenith Flare. There's the combo on the 4! Low Jazz and Retrozing find their
Angel's blocked.
combo, and Arbrio's there for the follow-up damage. Dragon going going to be able to respawn off the back of the Guardian Angel. Lojaz finishes off on towards Aquanic on the opposite side, but it's a 4 versus 3. Here comes Neon Crystal executing Lojaz. Down goes an Ori B. Dragon Soul to FBC, and Retrozing's the last one standing, trying to get away, slowed up by Fliptick, and soon to be hunted down by 4 hungry rabbits.
Retrozing, he's gonna escape for the time being, but FBC, they claim the soul, they have the Baron, the death timers are super long, Protoss will come up, but I don't think Leona is gonna be the difference between winning and losing this game as far as base defense is concerned. There's a Tristana, there's a Yorick, and they specialize at one thing, Gordo. At the moment, it is demolishing turrets.
So much damage coming through on towards this first one. They're going to be able to take the mid lane inhibitor. Shockwave comes out, takes the tick low. Eon Crystal is now serving in as the front line, and they don't think they can push for more, Quacks. Mid lane inhibitor will fall, but game number 2 will continue. Final boss Chungus not able to close out after that win.
But they still get the inhibitor, get the super minions, and the inhibs on their side have also now respawned, so it's no supers to be concerned about on the side of AMI. They will have the push advantage going in to the next few minutes. That is so critical when looking at the next few objectives. Baron up in 3.5 minutes, Elder a minute after that, but all of that could be meaningless if FBC or AMI, they just find one more fight win.
It's only going to come down to one more team fight, but I mean, it feels like the window might be closing for AMI here a little bit. That Guardian Angel from High Trigon is so helpful. The fact that they have the stasis on Aquanic as well, they cannot win the fight purely off of a good engage from Lojaz and Retrozing any longer. They got a 4-man Shockwave off in that last team fight, and they still lost.
Yeah, and also it just kind of felt like FBC are a little too tanky at this point. I mean, they all survived.
Tristana.
Right, they all survived that shockwave before they had the Ocean Soul. Now they have the Ocean Soul, so it gets even harder than it was the last time. I definitely agree with you, Gordo. I think the idea of AMI winning these fights in a straight up 5v5 is slowly but surely becoming a pipe dream. They need to find a pick. They need to utilize this Leona or this level 16, now 3 points in the Paranoia Nocturne, to isolate a member of FBC. But how are you going to be able to isolate one of those members when you don't have the vision, you don't have, you know, the knowledge, you don't have the intel of when they are actually alone?
It's going to have to be a judgment call, and your judgment had better be perfect to be able to stay alive in this game. From being in such a strong position, 2 inhibitors down, to being on the verge of being taken to game number 3, AMI, it's happened again. A team seated massively below them is challenging them and is on the verge of picking up another win. This has happened to them time and time again throughout this ACL season. From a Pool 2 team to being in this elimination match today, FBC looking to keep this trend alive and show that they can contend with the newest team in the NACL.
This win, it's about reassuring everybody that when it does come time for 2026, they will be worthy of that tier 2 spot. They will be competitive in that tier 2 league. A loss here, I think, would really drop people's expectations of what this roster was capable of after so many people were excited to see them requalify. It is a massive statement from one of these 2 teams on a win or loss in this series, but all AMI need to do is win one more fight. FBC, it's a much steeper uphill battle. A fight win here would give you the game, but then there might be one more after it, and the thought of one more game after these first 2, Gordo, is just insane, by the way.
It's a little scary, but we'll get through it. There's a TP coming on through for Fliptick to be able to rejoin the rest of his team. He brings the maiden along with him. They take a little dissonance damage, but otherwise are going to be unscathed. And it's just a full-on ARAM right now as both teams posture for position before the dragon spawns. Charm onto Arbrio, going to chunk him for a fair bit. This hurts now, no matter who it is, as Aquanic has got the Void Staff and the Rabadon's completed. and control over the mid wave. It's going to favor the team with the Yorick Ghouls pushing. They are going to be the first ones on towards the Baron. Aquanic staying behind to get a good chunk of damage. Protoss loses half his HP and his summoner heal, and they're not done yet.
They have no vision of that top side. They will never know if the Baron is being started up. But now Barbo, they're going in.
Now they know. There's going to be a flash in from Aquanic, but it's not enough to take down an Ori B. He's able to stay standing, and he's able to turn it right back around. A 4-man shockwave from Retro Zing might be enough to pull this back for AMI, but Pi Trigon still standing, still with the Ocean Soul on his back, jumps on towards an Ori B. Finishes him up for a double kill. Now looking to reset onto some more. It's only Retro Zing and Lojaz left alive, and Pi Trigon's got enough damage to spare to be able to take down them both. He's got the Ocean Soul to keep regenning as well, and he's got Eon Crystal to back him up. They have the cutoff on towards the wave, so there's no chance at ending the game, but they have the DPS to potentially start this Baron.
And it is not the ACL welcoming Pi Trigon. It is Pi Trigon welcoming the ACL as this Tristana is popping off in the late game of the second match. The decider for FBC resting entirely on the substitute's hands as he keeps the game alive. They will secure the Baron. And now the Elder on the map. They have to hold to it. Grand Starfall's channel, Gordo.
Here it comes. Eon Crystal knows what could be going on down here. They throw down the Scryers. They see the Baron, or the Dragon rather. They know where it stands, and they know they have to get out of Lojaz. They find the stun, and Pi Trigon is firing away. Jungler down. Elder Dragon, the final boss, Chungus. Well set up. Both epic buffs looking to close out the game.
What do you mean both? They got all three. The Infinity Gauntlet is complete. In League of Legends, they've got the Soul, the Elder, the Baron, FBC. They're 5 members strong, 4 on the bot lane, 1 in the mid lane. They're looking to push for the end. Lojaz is down, and they've got the numbers advantage for the next 30 seconds, Gordo.
And this is the timing. If not now, then when. Lojaz is down. You have all 3 buffs. Slow on towards an Ori B. Maybe waiting for a couple more cooldowns, but the siege power here is incredible, and cooldowns are down on both sides. Still no shockwave back available for Retro Zing. That's going to be back soon. They're going to pull the trigger in towards mid lane. Sliptick going to try to stay alive for as long as he can. He procs the Serix, flashes out, keeps them in the baby cage, and here comes Eon Crystal to cut them off on the opposite side. They're going to give up on towards the dreams of the inhibitor. They're going to try to take the fight front to back instead. Pi Trigon able to finish off on a Protoss, and the mid lane inhibitor is a sitting duck for the remaining members of FBC. They're going to keep this siege going as Lojaz respawns. 2 inhibitors down already. The Baron Bunions are going to continue to siege on towards the base. Now looking to see if this turret shredding potential of the Tristana is going to be enough to be able to close out the game. But Ori B takes a huge chunk. He gets one shot by the Elder Dragon. Into the stasis goes Aquanic, as they just need to keep Pi Trigon alive, and they're going to be able to do that with ease. Final boss Chungus pull the game back and take us to game number 3.
FBC keep their season alive, and AMI. Gordo, I'm starting to think whoever wins the early games in this series might just be cursed to lose the game, my friend.
I can't believe it. I can't believe they pulled the game back from where they were at and those few positions. Up and down. Look at the gold lead. Look at the chart. Look at it.
Absolutely insane. And such a big statement from the Tristana, the substitute, coming in against Anori B on his signature champion, down 1 game. And this loss very well going to determine whether or not you stay alive in the ACL or not. He shows up in the late game, keeps the series alive. Massive, massive props to him. But a big shout out to the rest of FBC, all of them playing their part. And Gordo, if we think it can't get any more crazy, then I feel like the 3rd game is right around the corner. It's looking at us very enticingly to be a banger, my friend.
It certainly is, Quacks. What a pair of games we've had so far. This one going to nearly 45 minutes. What a performance from Final Boss Chungus to be able to turn that one back. Highlight plays from members of AMI as well, but not enough to be able to close that game out. And the scaling Tristana, what wins it for them at the end of the day. Very impressive performance from the substitute on this squad. and very excited to see where they can take this series. One more game will advance one of these teams to a playoff qualification match and will eliminate the other. You're not going to want to miss it. We're going to throw it to a quick break here, but we'll see everybody for game number 3 after just a couple minutes. Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's broadcast of the ACL, where we are going to game number 3 between Final Boss Chungus and Apex Mission Impossible. I'm hyped, man. That was a 45+ minute game, and AMI showing why they have dropped far in people's rankings and in the standings, but FBC showing how they've been able to fight their way up as well. They've been able to take games off of other really good teams. They took a game off of CCG. They were able to challenge up against teams like Weber in their own group, and it's been paying off for them.
Absolutely, and I feel like the recovery from FBC has come from the most unlikely source, Gordo. It has been P3gon in the bot lane, coming out in game number 2 on the Tristana.
We're going with P3gon.
You're right, I am. We are surrendering. So we have been told by a, let's just say an anonymous source, because I think if you're looking at the Twitch chat, you know who it is, that has been telling us that we have been calling them wrong. We have been naming them wrong, or pronouncing their name wrong the entire time. So if we're being trolled, congratulations, you got us. But I'm gonna choose
if we're being trolled, you're banned, dude. I'm gonna choose
to trust the sourse, and we'll be calling them
P3gon. Though I'm banning this person. I want that to be very clear. I have no tolerance for this. We're putting our faith in you, all right? We're putting our faith in you, Twitch chat. Don't let us down. If anybody else knows and is willing to either validate or challenge, please do that. I don't want to get this guy's name wrong. I also don't want to let somebody troll him by convincing us his name is different. We're going to hope this works out. We're going to go with P3gon.
We are.
All right.
Yeah.
If we were wrong before, I'm sorry.
Yep. All right. So now going into the draft for game number 3 here, Gordo. And honestly, you know, we've got a decent amount of the big meta champions kind of banned away here. I mean, you specifically look at the jungle pool. Xin Zhao, Pantheon, Wukong, and Trundle have been like the leading sources of, you know, that bruiser fighter-esque meta for a majority of 2025. So a lot of those taken away. Obviously, you've still got, you know, things like the Trundle. You could go for that. You could go for like the Poppy as well. Those are both open. Jarvan is also available. But point is, they are significantly reducing the options here in the game. And so I do think the most concerned role for me is probably that top lane, where where both top laners have a pretty condensed pool as far as I know.
Yeah, it may very well be tough for them here. I'm curious to see. FBC is going to be on blue side this game. That's an interesting choice from AMI for me. Something I wanted to see is if they would be willing to take blue side, drop the Camille ban against Fliptick, and try to first pick it for Arbrio. That's a big Arbrio pick. It's been a big Arbrio champion his whole career so far. So that option not looking too good right now, as AMI did opt over for the red side. So I assume they're going for an alternative strat in the top lane. Arbrio also a player who maybe has a few more of the tanks in the repertoire than Fliptick does. Take a little bit more of a carry guy. Does have the Dr. Mundo that he's played once this season, so maybe we'll see something like that.
Absolutely, but kind of as we're waiting for the draft to start up here, Gordo, I feel like we have some time to kind of talk about the series that we have borne witness to, and fortunately so, because this has been an absolute banger so far. Game number 1, obviously kind of back and forth at the start, but pretty convincingly dominated by AMI in the mid to late stages. Game number 2, an absolute slugfest, back and forth, up and down, left and right. At every single turn, something crazy was happening, and I do feel like, you know, obviously we talk about P3gon being a massive source of that comeback material from FBC, but I also feel like on FBC side, really impressed by actually what we saw from Fliptick. I think his side laning on the York was instrumental for getting FBC those opportunities with the extended vision that they were able to place down, because a lot of those tier 2s were claimed by the York, and so that gave them the opportunity to pull up some of those deep wards and really get some of those early aggressive pick plays onto AMI.
Yeah, so there's going to be the Zoe ban to start things off, looking to take that option away from RetroZing. That's interesting for me. I feel like I haven't seen RetroZing Zoe too much. I wonder if that's a Protoss Zoe ban, because Protoss has played a game of Zoe. Maybe a little bit of extra fear coming in for the potential support. Or maybe RetroZing's got a Zoe. Maybe it's a flex pick for them. But either way,
yeah,
Chungus going to show it some respect here in game number 3. Taking it off the board. The Aurora ban been kept firm the whole way through. And given Aquanick's lane dominant style, it doesn't surprise me that there's a lot of emphasis put on taking that champion away.
Yeah, I mean, Aquanick has been really good first 14 minutes of the game. A big thing that we said we were looking out for Aquanick going into this series was his ability to transition his lane dominance into actual concrete leads into that mid to late game where FBC have historically struggled a little bit more, which is almost the inverse of AMI, where AMI have kind of an early game that has a lot to be desired, and they kind of picked up pre 14 minutes. When they group up, I feel like is when they always look like they're at their best. So for Aquanick, it was about, you know, dominating in the lane, but also being able to get advantages on the map through that gold lead that you generated in the lane phase. And I feel like game number 2 was a little bit back and forth on the Ahri. Obviously, he struggled with it on the Vex, which is part of the reason why they weren't able to actually close out that game with a victory, Gordo. But I think going into game number 3, he still has a couple of champions that are up and available, namely that Syndra that he has 2 games on. I'm wondering if we'll see that here in game number 3. Maybe just say, you know, screw it, first pick, and you go like Jarvan Syndra. I think that is one of the few combos where both champions are heavily prioritized and both junglers actually really know what they're doing on their respective champions.
Yeah, it would be a real exciting one. The Gwen going to be the final ban here, though. Real emphasis on towards top lane and on towards Fliptick's champion pool in this game number 3. Final boss Chungus with the first selection here. Notably, the Azir up still. Not a champion that I generally associate with Aquanick, but a really strong RetroZing pick that is super frequently banned against him. I wonder if they're going to be willing to trade that one over, if they have a matchup in mind for it. The other big Aquanick champion left is the Syndra. I wonder if they're just willing to play Syndra into Azir. Caitlyn going to be the first selection, though, for P. Trigon.
Okay, I mean, I'm looking at Barbo's champion pool and things that could possibly pair up with this. I see a Seraphine game, and I see a Tom Kench game, I guess. I feel like the best thing for Caitlyn is oftentimes just pairing it up with either a long-ranged support that can really, you know, guarantee you get prio and a lot of that plate gold, or you go heavy with the CC and allow him to lay down those traps, as we are actually going to be seeing RetroZing on his Azir. You called that one out, Gordo, and then they're going to immediately snag up a Varus for Inori B, so will be a little bit behind in the range department, and also doesn't have any of that mobility. So I actually would favor heavily FBC just going for a poke lane here, making it really, really difficult for Inori to play League of Legends. Instead, he's just going to be playing, you know, Dodging Simulator the entire time. That's just basically playing Galaga.
Yeah, definitely. As see what the selection is going to be for Barbo, like you called out. I think it's a great opportunity to go for kind of a double poke lane here. He's got a lot of kind of off the wall picks that he's willing to go for as well. Hasn't shown us too many of those snare focused champions that you traditionally see paired up alongside of Caitlyn, but like we called out earlier, there's been Seraphines, there's been Annas, there's been Zillions. You know, it could see another kind of mage-y pick as a result. There's that Syndra for Aquanick, so they are willing to handshake that matchup, knowing that you can't resist an Azir if your name is RetroZing and it's left up for you in this game 3 situation.
I think you just pair it up with a Jarvan. I think the odds of AMI either banning it away or picking it on 3 here are really high, and I think it is one of the really good pairings, one of the best pairings still actually available for FBC here in game number 3. So if I'm them, I'm immediately going jungle here. You do leave yourself a little bit open to not the best support pairings, but they're actually going to prioritize that instead, going for the Alistar. So not only does this set you up for laying down those traps and getting that crowd control that we kind of alluded to, but it's also good disengage for any potential shuffles that Retrozing might want to go for. And I imagine Retrozing won't be the sole engage source here for AMI. They'll probably give an engage either support or jungler over in this draft. I don't know if they'll pick it on 3 though.
That's what we're going to find out, as they could go for a variety of options here. You called out the Jarvan. You could also try to snag up a high prio support. Notably, I don't know if it's the best angle for it in the world, but the Rakan still up and available. Big pick for Protoss. Really high prio pick in general. You know, you can get stunned away by the Syndra. You can get punted away by the Alistar, but it does give you a lot of power. Instead, they're going to stamp up the Ornn. They want a tank for Arbrio, and they don't want it to be Scion or Rek'Sai. Instead, they are going to snap up this Ornn.
So now AMI are basically locked into banning Trundle here, by the way. They have to take that character away, because if FBC decide to snag that one up, you lose access to your big tank here. So that probably just guarantees that taken away. Yeah, they're going to immediately ban that one up. And now they kind of have to choose. Are you going to be going for, you know, a top lane ban that doesn't necessarily completely screw over this Ornn in the laning phase? Or do you ban away that Jarvan, deny that pairing with the Syndra? I feel like this is kind of a pick your poison moment here for AMI, because you know, you're kind of you're taking away one thing but you're sacrificing another, I feel.
Yeah, shout out to Aegis GG2 coming on through with the raid. Hope everybody had a great series over on the other Aegis stream. We are going to game number 3 here in an elimination do or die game between Final Boss Chungus and AMI. Very excited to have those from the ADL coming to join us here. We do get into that second phase of bans. The Trundle going to get taken away by AMI, trying to limit the anti-tank options into this Ornn that they've already picked for themselves. Meanwhile, some enchanting supports taken away for FBC.
And I'm trying to think if maybe there's any creative angles that FBC could take other than, you know, going for the Jarvan here. I mean, like you could go for like the Mundo, I suppose, wouldn't be absolutely awful, because there's a fair amount of disengage. Like, you completely ignore that shuffle if you've got the cask on you, which is really nice to have if you're looking to have somebody besides that Alistar engaging into the fight. Not to mention, I think that you know, sometimes Mundo can act as kind of a decoy to allow Syndra and Caitlyn to free hit, because I mean, this man is just running with a briefcase or a banjo straight into your backline. So I think that could be like a dark tech kind of you know, maybe unexpected avenue that they could go. But I feel like for simplicity's sake, like, Jarvan probably is your best answer here, as now AMI on the red side, the question of what they're going to pick, they've got both their soul laners and the AD carry. So I imagine they go jungle on 4 here and probably save, or no, they probably go support here because Alistar was already picked, so there's no need to hold that counter anymore. They are going to go for the Janna. So interesting. I think probably anticipating you know, an engaged jungler here for FBC, and I think that Monsoon gonna have a whole extra lot of value if that is the case, just for disengaging and buying space for the immobile Varus.
Yeah, a pick that so far, you know, only Barbo has played between these two supports, instead going to go the way of Protoss this time around. We talked about how both of these are players with really deep champion pools, and they're all in on this kind of late game team approach. I love an Olaf from Fliptick here, though. Knows he's got himself a clean lane up against the Ornn, has played it already this season, and now can really just rush through a lot of the disengaged options that AMI are presenting for themselves. Really good top lane selection here at the end, staring down just junglers for both teams now. Eon Crystal, with his pick of the litter, could still go for that Jarvan that we've been talking about, Quacks, and instead it's going to be the Zed.
Zed lock in here for Aeon Crystal. They're putting their faith in the substitute jungler here for Final Boss Chungus. They're saying, screw that setup, screw that pairing, screw that wombo combo. We're going full octane mode here for our jungler. And Gordo, this gets my assassin heart pumping, because this, other than Kha'Zix, is the champion I have been spamming the most in solo queue. So I'm really excited for that. As Garen locked in, is that an Ornn jungle? This did get buffed in the most recent patch. Ornn is one of the top laners that got his damage to monsters amplified. So this actually isn't a bad idea. It's a tank into an assassin.
I mean, there's the ancient Stridebreaker Garen technology. I mean, it's been lost to the eons for a while, no pun intended. And I guess both are on the table, but I think you're probably right, Quacks. I think it probably is going to be that Ornn jungle. Orungle? What? Orungle is definitely
Orungle.
Yeah.
Orungle sounds better. Yeah, I think the best sounding, like, you know, you add the ungle at the end is probably Gwungle. I think Gwen jungle really rolls off the tongue, but Orungle doesn't sound great, but it's going to be picked up here.
The second it came out of my mouth, I knew it was Orungle. Where we've got
Orungle.
it. It's
I love it. But honestly, welcome to Jungle in 2025, by the way. Zed versus Ornn, two champions not designed for the role, but they're here anyway. As I mean, looking at the draft right now, I mean, FBC, the damage is just absolutely insane. You've got Caitlyn, Syndra, Olaf, and Zed, all of whom can take over a game, all of whom can carry if they're given the correct resources to do so. And I feel like that puts a lot of pressure on AMI to have a good laning phase, right? Which is something that we have historically said is a thing that they struggle with, right? Those first 14 minutes are oftentimes the worst phase of the game. They really pick it up afterwards. But this is a comp in which I feel like it's not going to be forgiving. You've got scaling on your side. You've got the ornaments on your side. But if you give free kills over to any of these targets on FBC, they can really easily take over the game. So I feel like that just forces AMI to play on a knife's edge, which is not something we're used to seeing from them, at least in the ACL. And honestly, that's what they're going to have to do if they want to stay alive in this regular season and keep their season going here in the winter split.
Yeah, absolutely here. So going to be one team going home, done with the ACL for 2025. We will see them next year, I hope, but definitely do not want it to be you who's calling it quits at this stage. AMI, a Pool 2 team, qualified to the NACL for 2026, looking to stay alive in ACL, needing to stay alive in ACL, lest they be judged for this early elimination. FBC playing with house money, I gotta say. This team, not one that a lot of folks had very high expectations of coming into the season, and now coming on up with multiple upset games, and we're gonna make it another upset series.
I'm sorry, our producer at the pause immediately crashed out and just the mic cut off. So I'm a little bit giggly off of that. But yeah, I mean, for AMI, it really does feel like a game where you kind of have to rein it in a little bit. You've got the scaling, but the snowballing is definitely not in your court. I think the only lane that AMI can realistically snowball is up on that top side, and the summoner spells, I think, show that that's exactly what they want to do. Arbrio rocking that ignite is low jazz. Has to be very careful. That undertow slow is not to be trifled with. You get hit by one of those, and you are probably going to have to flash.
Probably are. It's going to be where our emphasis sits. And going to be a very keen eye on both of these junglers, kind of on total opposite ends of the spectrum as far as what they're trying to accomplish. And we talked about the comparison between these two way back at the start of the series. Lojaz, a player who has really kind of made a name for himself over the course of 2025, qualifying for NACL twice. Eon Crystal, historically maligned, not often on these competitive teams. He and RetroZing together on so many teams that just could not produce good results for so long.
Yep.
Now facing off against each other, their stocks heavily raised.
All right, and we can see both junglers starting on that top side. All right, top one things you never want to do on against a Zed jungle. Start on the same side as him, because this man will clear faster than you. can oftentimes finish his last camp before you can even finish your 5th, so can intercept you with a level advantage possibly on that blue buff or that Gromp, especially if he has priority. So I think Lojaz is going to have to be really careful and really cautious that is a possibility for Aeon to just pay him a visit toward his Gromp. And in the 1v1, I think that I would heavily favor the guy who actually does damage early on.
P3gon taking a rough trade here, though, as he does not get the level 2 first. The range versus melee support matchup rearing its head off on that play, and they will take an advantage for it. And Oribe and Protoss with the priority in the bottom lane for the time being.
We can see that Aeon almost done with his red buff already. Should be able to make the difference here in the bot lane because, as you said, P3gon and Barbo are struggling. And Oribe without that barrier as well does mean he's a little bit easier to kill if you can land your spells. Actually, he might be really easy to kill now. The Janna has left the laning phase to try and run interference here on mid.
Yeah, I mean, this is another one of those picks. We've gotten to see like the 3 Aquanet classics this game, although I'm speaking a little too soon. Flip-Tick getting aggressive on towards Arbrio. Not quite able to outrun that Garen with his movement speed boost, and so will not actually be able to finish it off even with the Ghost blown.
See that Aeon resetting, grabbing that double longsword to secure the topside crap. Could find a topside gank here, but Flip-Tick did burn that Ghost, so the chase down onto the Garen is going to be a little bit difficult, but he does use that Q.
Yeah, just looking to try to get Arbrio's health bar low, knowing that here comes Eon Crystal, waiting for that W to expire. It does, but Arbrio has the flash in the tank and can keep himself alive as a result. But note, he has no teleport. Neither top laner can teleport this game, so being able to force him back would be a huge advantage.
Surprised that Aeon didn't stick around to maybe try and help his top laner clear out that wave, because like you said, neither of them have teleport, so Flip-Tick kind of has to put his life on the line, or, you know, risk getting traded into by the Garen in order to get shoved in top, which could open an opportunity up for Lojaz to maybe run interference, because now the Ornn is on the top side. He's looking to try and gank the Olaf, and he might actually burn a flash. Maybe he doesn't get the kill. We'll have to wait and see. He is there.
Yeah, gonna have to be careful here. The dreaded Ornn jungle gank. See Aquanet and Retrozing trading in the mid lane. Not going to be looking like that Ornn has too much of an impact at all, as Flip-Tick just happy to continue farming. He did flash.
Yep.
But seems like that's going to be enough, and now he gets a really positive trade here up against Arbrio. There's another axe. And
that wave is
I like
in.
the decision to just not go too aggressive here. Knows he's in a favored position, and Eon Crystal coming up to back him
Get
up.
in there, Aeon!
Yeah.
Ignore him! Ignore the Ornn!
Oh, throws out the shadow, doesn't connect. Lojaz looking for the knock-up. They do wait for it, and we have another screen freeze.
Oh no.
I think this might be Spectate Bug. We're gonna have
It might
to
be
see.
Spectate Bug. Hopefully it's the one that we can get back into, and the one that doesn't screw us over. We've had a history of that over the past week or so. But yeah, it doesn't look like Arbrio is actually going to go down, but it's such a rough position to be in when you don't have teleport. Being this low on HP, basically forcing your junglers to stick around.
No.
Grennick, oh boy. That's a kill, by the way. He's in turret range. We can literally see the laser pointed right at his cranium.
Yep. I mean, that looks like a clear disconnect. So unfortunate, but not much that can really be done about it on live servers. So, yeah. Oof. That's a rough one, but not an irrecoverable one for Final Boss Chungus. But they are going to start off with that disadvantage almost certainly, currently getting through those connection issues.
Yep. And the top laner is pulling a lot of attention from the junglers right now to help fix their wave states. And I feel like, honestly, this is bad for both of them, but it's especially bad for the Ornn, because that Ornn horn is basically how you make ganks happen, right? Like, similar to the Pantheon, while you do have a little bit of mobility in your Q, W, and E, like just your regular spells, that ultimate is really what I think gives you the edge to, you know, get the long range Ornn horn, get that slow, and possibly follow it up with a knockback. It almost certainly is going to amount to a flash, and if they don't have it, could amount to a kill. So not having that, getting that delayed, I think is definitely worst for Lojaz in the grand scheme of things. Obviously, it's still not great for Aeon Crystal because you don't have the death mark, but I still think he can operate without his ultimate a little bit more effectively than the Ornn can without his.
Yeah, I do hear game sounds in the background, so I think we are going to be getting back on in pretty short order. I hear blows being exchanged. I assume Aquanic did fall in that. I think I heard some death sounds in there, and
Maybe.
that is unfortunate. But I mean, it seems like it's just what happens sometimes if you don't get the pause off fast enough. Playing on live servers, you do end up with those sorts of situations. It's early enough that it hopefully should not have a massive impact on the rest of the game, but it's just something you're going to have to play through.
Unfortunately, it is, and yeah, okay, we're back to live.
All right, we are back. We're rewound about 10 seconds here. You're going to see this appears to be the impact of the DC. I don't think this was a tactical choice. And Aquanic going to go down. Retrozing, first blood for AMI.
Really unfortunate, but does have teleport to get back to the lane. And as we can see, no more top lane shenanigans befalling the Rift, so both junglers going to be able to go back to their clearing. As I really feel like the early game, it's not really the mid game that I'm worried about, that I'm, rearing my eyes toward. It's definitely that top side. Particularly the top lane matchup, because I think both Arbrio and Fliptick are reliant on getting gold early in order to have that key effectiveness going late, notably the Olaf. I mean, if you don't have kills and you just Ragnarok forward, you're going to get blown up. You're not going to be tanky enough, and so I feel like that is the whole point of being Olaf in a team fight, is just to draw attention to you as you speed blitz the back line. If he isn't able to do that, then I feel like it's going to be difficult for him to find uses outside the laning phase. Barbo?
Oh, Barbo nearly falls down in that trade with an Oribe and Protoss. Will barely stay alive, but this is going to be the Caitlyn lane forced into an early recall. Almost got interrupted there by Protoss, but Trigon getting out of there just in the nick of time. Still going to be a big wave crashing in for an Oribe and Protoss. Going to deny them a lot of farm.
Absolutely is. Trigon and Barbo having a bit of a rough time in this laning phase so far, in a 2v2 matchup that we said might actually, legitimately favor them, considering that Caitlyn has the range advantage. Alistar has the potential to, get an engage and allow the Caitlyn to lay down those traps, but it seems like so far the Varus has really been the one dictating this laning phase, and I feel like that's extra consequential because Inori B is the guy with teleport. Right? I mean, he doesn't have that combative summoner spell, and so far he hasn't been punished, which just means that he really isn't missing anything in the laning phase, and even if he does, he has the potential to get right back to the lane.
Definitely does here. So, luckily for Aquanic, he already had the TP advantage when he went down, so kind of just gets the TPs back to equal state over the course of that exchange. Fliptick still winning out on this top side as well, so Final Boss Chungus feeling good about their top lane prospects.
Yeah.
Ian Crystal, though, not able to get his name on anything as of yet. Will spot the attempted approach from Lojaz and Protoss.
Lojaz does now also have the Ornn Horn ahead of this potential grub fight. Those coming up in about 15 seconds. You can see the lane swap is initiated here by AMI, so they actually have a numbers advantage for the time being, but they do not have priority. So it might be difficult for them to walk into this river without face checking a Syndra or a Zed.
Absolutely, and now Trigon kind of in the 1v1 up against Arbrio for the time being, as they are going to rotate supports up towards the top side. We're going to rotate an Oribe up there as well. Plenty strong with that early lethality and the Arcane Comet. Did have the TP to be able to get on up here. They're going to start off the grubs, and AMI looking like they are in full control, but FBC not willing to let it go without a fight. They do have multiple members posturing around the area. They do have a very dangerous Olaf as necessary. Arbrio not going to be able to...
He's going in.
Neither is Trigon. It's going to be the ultimate popped. This is all in on towards an Oribe, but not enough damage. Retrozing going to be able to just work through him with the addition of that ultimate. Here comes Ian Crystal diving into the backside, trying to get his way onto
he doesn't get him.
Enough damage to finish the job. And now it's a full strength AMI trying to push them the rest of the way back. FBC going to have to retreat for now, but they have control over the pit. Recall interrupted there from RetroZing, and they are going to see if they can claim themselves at least one grub, maybe two.
Definitely is possible, but the teleport is there. Or no, it's not there. RetroZing didn't go for the back, so he's still here. He's still at about half HP, half mana, but that's going to be enough for them to, you know, get control. Okay, it's a smite fight.
They're going to go for it, and it does go the way of LoJazz, but what about the follow-up fight? Not going to be able to get it, it looks like, as Barbo is hit with a tornado, prevented from engaging. 2 for 1 on the grubs, AMI in the lead.
And this is what we kind of alluded to with Fliptick on the Olaf. I mean, if you don't give him resources, you don't give him gold, sure, you Ragnarok forward, you create a target that allows the rest of FBC to free hit, but it's about how much time can he actually buy you. If he's too squishy, if he goes down too quickly, you're just feeding kills over to AMI, and that's exactly what happened. The Olaf goes forward, gets instantly blown up without being able to find a trade, burns the flash from Inori, though, but they aren't able to capitalize off of that. So it is an AMI win. They get the kills, they get the grubs as well, 2-1, and that's absolutely massive for them, denying this snowballing objective from the snowballing comp and just allowing that scaling to continue on your side.
And something I'd like to check, I would like to ask Caddy on Prod, can we take a look at Protos's ability levels here? Is he maxing E? Because I suspect that is why that shield was so fat. Yes, he is.
Oh, yes, he is.
That fat Eye of the Storm shield, a big part of what keeps an Ori alive, and means that this lane is kind of just indexed towards press E on the Varus, give him a free BF sword worth of stats, and let Poke Varus do his thing.
Really good for the survivability. Is, I mean, that's the whole point why they pick Janna, right? You have them on soon to be able to disengage your Zeds, disengage your Alistars, and make it really difficult for him to be, you know, grabbed onto as Horn.
Aquanick going to get the shove back there on towards LoJazz. RetroZing not able to connect the ultimate. He did pop it there, but Aquanick flashed it. So they will exchange ult for flash. That's positive for RetroZing, even though it costs AMI 2 ultimates.
And it's not only that, you were talking about the shield, but it gets bigger if the Janna actually lands CC beforehand. So yeah, just making it really difficult to get on top of Inori and a lot of these other key priority targets for AMI. I say that and they immediately do so.
Yeah, that was also a shield thrown down onto Protoss, so no free BF sword for an Ori B this time. Not that he seems to care too much. P3gon putting in a lot of damage. P3gon gonna be able to find the shots, and the squishy Janna is no more. Now an all-in on the top side. Fliptick sees an angle onto Arbrio. Not going to pop the ultimate to try to chase him down this time, but once again has Eon Crystal in the wings to pressure this Garen underneath the turret.
I mean, Garen is getting pressure, but on the other side of the map, because of that kill and just surrendering that pressure onto the bot side, that means that AMI are going to be able to claim their second objective of the game. So they will get a Mountain Dragon, which is absolutely huge to get, by the way, for this Ornn. It may not be the soul, but just giving this little bit of extra tankiness early over to the, you know, tank of all tanks really is going to go a long way, I feel, and just making him a more stable frontliner for the team. As yeah, they will claim that objective for themselves. That's both of them so far for AMI.
P3gon, really good job to be able to bring on up that kill. I cannot believe that Barbo was up that far up against a potential shot from an Ori B, but they were punished, I suppose, and now starting to find themselves a foothold in this game are FBC. The CS leads still quite good for them, even though they haven't quite been able to clean up the kills. Winning out in pretty much every lane now. P3gon catching up from that early deficit he was in.
Simply because, I mean, you look at mid lane, RetroZing quite far ahead of Aquanick in the laning phase
every
so
game,
far.
by the way.
Which, that's been true. No, RetroZing is the one that falls behind. Usually it's Aquanick that dominates the laning phase. This is a first-time thing, it feels like, in this series.
Sure. I was talking about the CSD.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. But it's an extra big deal because, I mean, these are two incredibly high scaling mid laners, right? And Azir known for that aspect. So the fact that he's starting this game up 2-0 is going to go a long way in making sure that he hits some of those item breakpoints a lot quicker and allows AMI to be more aggressive a lot sooner.
Ooh, flip tick though. And finding a nice trade up against
Arbrio, you do not
Arbrio,
win
and
this.
he's just going to pop the ultimate. He wants to be able to hunt him down the rest of the way. A couple more axes.
do you?
It flashes after, and one more swing of the axes. Flip tick finds a solo kill.
Liptic getting on to Arbrio. Not only does he get the solo kill, but he burns both summoners from the Garen as well, meaning that Aeon Crystal, with his own ultimate ready and available, could very easily go to that top lane and maybe secure some gold for himself, or give some more gold over to the Olaf. I think that Zed still not having a kill 14 minutes into the game. Not really what you want to be seeing from this champion. You want to be seeing that gold get online a little bit sooner, as Retrozing maybe looking for some retribution.
I'm surprised Fliptick did not just try to turn onto this one, because yeah, he's gonna get hunted down for sure. But maybe slight chance that the Olaf can just drain tank it, but definitely not gonna happen this time. Retrozing walks away with his third of the game, certainly making use of that kill gold he got earlier on.
And you were talking about it in the draft, Gordo, this being, you know, kind of one of the champions that Retrozing is known for. And it certainly shows in this game, kind of dominating in the laning phase, now getting his third kill, like you said. He's also got his first item being the Gnasher's Tooth, so does give a little bit more strength to this Azir. Petri gone.
Going to be able to back on away here, looking for the combos on towards Inori B. Eye of the Storm, of course, doing a lot of work there, as Inori B gets a big shield and a big bit of AD to go along with it. But these are some squishy targets standing very close to Aeon Crystal's Eclipse Zed, in position to be able to attempt an assassination if the opportunity presents itself. Pulling over Fliptick, who does have the Ragnarok back and available, and Barbo here to be able to get in there with a pulverized headbutt as well. Strong position for FBC, and it's look like they're going to start to push AMI back here a little bit in this brawl over the Rift Herald.
They have control of the topside river, and it's really hard to wrestle back control of that from an Ornn and an Azir, who have really good space-making tools. So you can see FBC attempt to do it, but Barbo almost gets killed, gets down to like 1/3 HP. Fliptick is on the flank, but he doesn't have flash or ghost, so I feel like the ability for Olaf to actually cover that distance without dying or getting significantly chunked before he actually reaches his target, that is a really difficult task for them. And because of that, AMI are just going to start up the Herald. I feel like this is theirs.
Yeah, they are going to walk away with it, and it's going to be their third objective as well. So I think it is going to come with the feats. Yep. Snatched up for AMI against a comp that was looking strong in the earlier stages. We really got to start seeing the Zed get involved, I feel like. Quacks not able to generate a huge advantage up against the Ornn in the early jungle, not able to counter jungle, not able to make the ganks happen. And now it just feels like the Ornn is going to just continue to be valuable, especially once these Ornn upgrades start coming through.
Yeah, especially because, like, ooh, hang on.
Well, could this be the caster blessing? They find some chain CC on towards Retrozing.
Ooh, good timing.
The death mark, trying to finish him off, but that monsoon healing, not enough. Aeon Crystal gets his man. Now trying to disengage here. Lojaz going to get stunned back away by the Scat of the Week. And final boss Chungus, no problems keeping this bot lane turret under siege and cleaning up some kills while they do it. Now Lojaz looking for an angle. Aeon Crystal going to be able to dash his way out of there. Gets hit by a big tornado over the wall.
Boy.
Comes the root, and Nori B picks off the assassin, and it's going to be a block. His own pillar blocks Lojaz from finding a big knockup onto Petri, and now Barbo going to be able to find that stun. Lojaz flashes out to safety. Aeon Crystal not going to be able to help out for himself. He falls down, and that's the only death in the fight.
And it's 4v3 here on the bot side. I mean, Retrozing did just respawn, so it's not going to stay like that for very long. Arbrio's on the top side just pushing. AMI not really concerned with this objective at the current moment. They want to use this Herald.
Protoss, Fliptick sees 3 and says, I like those odds. He picks up Protoss. Now looking out for Nori B. The damage might be too much, but he gets a second. Fliptick, 1v4, 2 kills.
And that's exactly what we want to see from the Ornn. You go in, you take out a couple of members. Sure, you give your life for it, but you kill more than you get killed. That sounded a little bit wrong, but AMI get 2 for 1, and now they don't have their bot lane ahead of this Dragon. Retrozing has to retreat, and this should be a dragon for FBC. AMI, they had the numbers advantage, but they forsook the objective. They didn't go on to it when they had the chance, Gordo.
I'm shocked that he does not just pop Deathmark onto Retrozing there. Felt like it was a chance to at least force the Azir out of the play. Now he's going to be here for this upcoming fight. Barbo going to be able to find the knockup. They've already secured the dragon. Barbo now just going to try to walk this one out with the Unbreakable Will. Eon Crystal sees 5 members, wants to see if he can get an angle into the back line. Scatter the Weak going to create a little bit of space, and Barbo going to be able to walk this one out.
Beautiful disengage there from FBC to keep Barbo alive as Aquanic has to flash the chains of corruption. Does escape death, and AMI, I feel like once again, like we've been talking about this, the proactivity to get onto the objectives, they take too long. And they give over chances for FBC to rebound in this game. They take them and they lose an objective they should have otherwise easily gained, Gordo.
The game continues to be in the hands of FBC. They are the ones who have themselves the lead in this game 3 situation. Kills incredibly close, scaling, feeling strong for AMI, but FBC, I like how they've drafted for this game. They've got the scaling mage who is supremely ahead in CS at this stage, and it's enough to offset some of those kills. You can see they're both at 1 item and a little bit of change. It looks like 2 items probably going to come through for Aquanic first.
Yep.
And they've got this Olaf, who they just do not appear to have a really good answer to.
And looking at the second items from some of these AD threats on FBC, really surprised none of them are actually going for a Black Cleaver, particularly Aeon and Fliptick instead. I think it'll be Aeon probably opting for the Spear of Shojin, and then a Fliptick probably opting for the Sundered Sky. But Black Cleaver actually has a lot of value because of the front line. We've really warned against how tanky Low Jazz is, and so you're kind of forsaking that and you know, making it difficult for you to actually take him down, which I think you need to do in order to transition getting onto this back line. That is, unless Aeon can find an angle to maybe get a flank onto Inori B. But as we've seen so far in this game, that is pretty difficult to do.
You know, we do need to see FBC try to accelerate somewhat. I feel like this Azir-Ornn combo going to become a big problem later on. The Garen too, just eventually getting to be a huge threat towards your back line. That is a second item completed for Aquanic. It's the Cosmic Drive, looking for that additional little boost of movement speed and CDR for these upcoming fights, knowing how important the Scatter of the Weak can be, especially against a team that it's kind of reliant on just walking up to you the way that the Garen and the Ornn do.
Otacon is on the top side. Real quickly before a fight, you know, maybe breaks out. Can we get a Sentra stack check, please, producer? 95. Getting there. He's almost there, but he doesn't have the execute just yet, and that could make a difference at this objective, Gordo. Certainly could.
Those Splinters of Wrath, always a underrated aspect of the Syndra scaling, and one that does make a big difference, especially once you get that little mini Rabadon's effect as well.
Yep.
For now, it's going to be a brawl over this Scuttle Crab. This should be something that Eon Crystal can secure no problem. Gets it off of that passive, and Low Jazz looking for a little bit of an engage here. Slams his face forward, doesn't find the knockups. Now we'll be able to back away.
Either team really looking too aggressively on this objective, namely the top laners are actually in the bot lane, and they don't have teleport, so it would literally just be a like a mile-long trek toward the top side if a fight were to break out and they wanted to be a part of it.
Looks like real happy with how that just went. Gets the Gromp and wins the trade up against Arbrio, as long as you can prevent that Perseverance from triggering. And yeah, just a little bit of a poke war in and around mid. Inori B, plenty dangerous with this Lethality Varus build. In comes Ace in the Hole, completely nullified by Eye of the Storm, by the way. That's a basic ability for Protoss.
Yep.
Silly champion, Janna.
I will also say, I think Caitlyn ult is like top 5 most useless ults in the game.
Sure.
It's one singular charge of a Jhin ult that can easily be blocked.
Definitely true. Arbrio thinks he's got an angle here, thinks he might be able to one-shot up against the likes of Fliptick. Fliptick gonna try to walk this one out. Ults to get out of the Stride Breakers slow. And he's home free.
You can see some item breakpoints being hit here by FBC, namely the Olaf getting at Sundered Sky, as well as the Zed getting that Spear of Shojin. So we'll have an extra little bit of cooldowns here for the Zed, which will also make the extended trades and having that Conquer just come in a little bit more clutch. But I mean, still, we don't really have that pen that we are hoping for in order to get through Low Jazz at the current moment. I think that it's probably going to be on P-Trigon going for that. Is Low Jazz?
Low Jazz able to get himself.
All right, guys, come on. We've been dancing for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, they're going to look for something here. Good damage found on a Protoss, but an Ori B there to rain through a little bit of additional damage. And see, I mean, the pressure's on here, Quacks. This is elimination for whoever does not walk away with the win. Nobody wants to be the one who makes a silly mistake and gets their team taken out of the ACL. But it's going to happen one way or the other, whether you like it or not. Somebody going to pull the trigger, for better or for worse. Another ace in the hole comes on through. P-Trigon getting hit by the ultimate, has to flash away. Call the Forge God creates the space. Turret secured for AMI. Opens up the map, gives them another easier path in towards this top river. And the Otacon is still what everybody fears.
Dragon is up as well. Both of these teams could, you know, maybe try to look for a cross-map play if worse comes to worse, but absolutely won't be worth it for the team that does end up acquiring the Drake. Now Baron is up, so let's say, you know, a team ends up winning the fight really hard, gets the Otacon, they can then transition it into a Baron and then maybe even transition it into a Dragon. So it really feels like the longer you delay this inevitable fight around the objectives, the higher the stakes end up stacking. Right now they are as high as they can get because you might lose 3 objectives if you lose a fight.
It goes without saying, right? The death timers aren't getting any shorter either.
Nope.
So more time to do stuff with. Low Jazz taking that level 13, got the first upgrade. It goes to himself. It's on the Sunfire Aegis. Feeling very, very strong and tanky, especially up against physical damage, which is most of what he's fighting. Aquanic, the only magic damage source really available here for FBC. What can they find? They get a nice stun here on towards Protoss. Don't want to commit the all-in yet. Unleash Power maybe could have finished off the Janna, but they don't want to waste that cooldown.
A lot of these breakpoints being hit either already have been or will be in the next subsequent minutes. I mean, Retrozing is getting kind of close to those 3 items, just completed the Shadow Flame. Low Jazz is level 13 now, so we'll start getting those big upgrades. AMI, you know, we talk about the scaling of this team. This is really the moment where it starts to come into play. So I'm really surprised FBC haven't found an opportunity to try and pull the trigger. They have to surely know that they do not scale as hard as here we go.
Oh, a quick little route found there on towards the Janna. They will be able to finish up their first kill. Now Fliptic trying to disengage. His ultimate is come and gone. His role has been fulfilled. They pick off Protoss, but what else can they find? Scatter the Weak gets its way on towards Retrozing. Neon Crystal there for the follow-up damage, but that's pretty much it. How else are you going to get in? Barbo is without the Unbreakable Will. Fliptic is without the Ragnarok. You can't get forward any longer, especially when Retrozing still has that Emperor's Divide. Maybe they catch Low Jazz in rotation, though. Slowed up, ulted by Eon Crystal, but absorbing it all like it's nothing. Double armor item, Ornn just walks it off.
You don't have any armor shred. That's what I've been saying the whole time. And Low Jazz just walks away, dusts off his shoulders like it's nothing. And FBC, they get like a pick, but it doesn't amount to anything. AMI were the guys that got the Dragon. That Otacon still stands. That Baron is still up. And the scaling continues to be there for AMI.
So much damage coming on through. And none of it means anything to Low Jazz, who's now starting to get a little bit of magic resist as well. Feeling confident in his ability to step up and threaten. And control over this topside river belongs to AMI, and they're going to continue to just plant their flag there, not even starting up the objectives, just trying to pick somebody off as they wander up too far, knowing that their pick potential is so strong, and knowing that they can clear out mid-waves all day. And FBC, like you said, they've got the lead, but that means less and less as time goes on.
Yeah.
And they need to be able to just pull the trigger. It's been so difficult, though, with all the disengage available to AMI.
All right, LDR is acquired for P-Trigon. So the Caitlyn is the answer to taking down this Ornn. But now, FBC, they're going to be walking into AMI, who have this topside set up.
Immediate flash away from Aquanic. Everything coming in out of Barbo. He does have the unbreakable will, so he's staying alive for a little bit longer. He's going to flash back over the wall as well. Chains of Corruption do not connect from an Ori B, but they don't need to. They're able to just run down Barbo. But here's that damage from the Shred. Now trying to chase down Jazz. Pete Trigon is going to be able to get him. Jungler down for AMI, but the fight is over. No more Ragnarok. No more Alistair. A forced flash away from Eon Crystal. AMI, the ones taking the fight back into their hands. Deathmark comes through. Eon Crystal trying to retreat, get some good damage onto Nori B, but he's executed by Arbrios Demacian Justice. And AMI with the numbers advantage on the map.
It's both junglers down, and the top side objectives still stand. AMI, they'll hold on control to that part of Summoner's Rift. They will get a teleport in here from Inori. And they're saying, our jungler comes up first. We will have the smite advantage, plus those Hex Gates. It means that the Ornn can get back just that much quicker. As now, Aquanix have found!
He gets caught by RetroZing, trades out 1-for-1 with Protoss, but that lack of poke damage is going to be felt as they attempt to work onto this dragon. LoJazz is back and alive. He's got the exhaust off of the Summoner Spellbook. Fliptick still without Ragnarok, but feels like he's got to be able to get in here and create some space, at least be able to buy some time for Eon Crystal. The threat is too great. AMI back off.
Feels like both of these teams, the big thing preventing them from taking down a lot of these objectives is just the poke that follows. You know, for the side of AMI, you've got to worry about the Caitlyn, you've got to worry about the Olaf, and you've got to worry potentially about the Syndra. But on the other side, you have to worry about Azir, you have to worry about the Varus. There are so many keys that, along with the innate damage from the objectives, can just chunk you down. And if you lose those members, the odds of that objective getting stolen significantly increase, Gordo. And when you're on game 3, like we've said so many times, you can't afford to take those risks. So both of these squads are just saving it. They're rank checking these objectives, and they're really playing these games cautiously.
Doing their best to drag it on longer and longer. Both teams are at this stage. You were calling for blood earlier, Quacks, and it never really showed up. 16 kills in a 31-minute game. This is about as bloodless as we get here in ACL. Both teams playing so carefully, not wanting to make the mistakes, not wanting to get over aggressive, not wanting to be the reason that you are eliminated. Will they be able to find them on the side of FBC?
You know, I commented on how I wanted to see red in the snow. I feel like I'm seeing more yellow in the snow at this point, as maybe we'll see red.
Tons of damage on towards Eon Crystal.
Ooh, they got him.
And he's executed. Arbrio gets the Demacian Justice through, but it's going to be a 1-for-1.
Fliptick
flows on through, but Fliptick, he maybe outruns the exhaust, but he cannot get on towards an Ori B. Shuffle back, stops RetroZing from getting the big ultimate. They finish off Barbo, but he is stuck way too deep. Aquanic going to be able to finish him up with one more Dark Sphere, and it's a 3-on-3 in the mid lane. 2 members down on either side, and nobody left to pull the trigger.
AMI, though, critically claim the jungler, but they don't have a lot of damage. I mean, an Ori B is the only DPS member of AMI still alive, and that's not enough to go for one of these objectives. Meanwhile, FBC, they're sneaking the dragon. LoJazz is right here. This is risky as hell.
Yeah, and it's not a risk that's going to pay off for them. LoJazz is here. He's arrived to the scene, and he wants to secure Dragon Soul Point for AMI. No problemo for LoJazz. Smited down and kind of leashed by FBC.
In this game, it's not punches in the face. It's not a stab wound that's killing FBC. It is a slow, very, very, very methodical chokehold that AMI have managed to put around the necks of final boss Chungus. We've got the level 14 Ornn. The ornaments are starting to come through.
15.
The almost 3-item Azir is on the map, and now to add on to all of that innate scaling from the champions and the builds is the soul point for AMI. FBC, they have been so cautious, but maybe too much so, and now the result is that they've maybe given up too much. They've got to pull the trigger, but the question of is it too late is really starting to be on my mind, Gordo.
It's hard for it not to be. You described it as a slow chokehold. I might have said kicks in the shin. from AMI here as they
More
just
like
continue to
stepping on the
pick off.
Legos, kind of.
For sure, for sure. Yours is more dramatic though. I respect it. It's just been so difficult for FBC to get much of anything. Aquanic. That's a classic Syndra move right there. Respect.
Gonna clear out a lot of vision, or at the very least tell FBC where the wards are placed, but I mean, look at how difficult it is for them to enter the pit. They can see where the wards are. They can't touch those wards, though.
Ooh, they think they got an angle on to Protoss, though. In with the death mark, it goes Eon Crystal, forced to retreat, and that death mark did nothing to Anori B. Has to flash away from Call of the Forge God. Petrigon taking so much damage here. Another big scatter of the week to stop another potential engage from AMI. Aquanic been on point with those, but it hasn't been enough yet. Shuriken connects onto Anori B and takes him for most of what he's worth. Aquanic now sees a chance to step forward, forces a flash out of Protoss with another well-placed scatter, but AMI had those tools available. They are able to nullify another engage
Arbrio on the
and now there just might not be anything left. Arbrio waiting for a deep flank. Scatter of the week comes and goes, doesn't find its mark. Outer turret getting worked on. Petrigon, one or two more shots would be able to finish it off, but the minion wave is already gone. Retro Zing doing a great job of being able to clear it away with the Azir soldiers, and the tools once again have just expired. Feels like they can't keep on sieging against AMI.
And it feels like AMI were looking for some form of an engage with Arbrio on the flank, but they just couldn't find it. Ornhorn is down. Your best bet is Retro Zang, as maybe Retro Zang finds an angle, but... Oh, Arbrio!
Yeah, and that shows the knife's edge they've been playing on here. Here comes the engage. It's going to be a Ragnarok forced out a flip tick. But yeah, Aquanic, it's so important for him to land every single scatter. He misses one on towards Retrozing, and that's it. Retrozing gets to shuffle in, and he's forced to flash because of the risk of a Shurima shuffle. Retrozing doesn't even use the Emperor's Divide, so he's got that tool available, knowing Aquanic's flash is down.
And Retrosync now has 3 items. It is the Zhonya's complete, so the extra little bit of safety also there for the Azir to be a source of engage, knowing that he can go golden and allow his team to buy space so that he doesn't immediately die upon entering a fight or starting a fight. AMI
45 minutes.
Yep, now Otacon is the key target in FBC. How are they even going to enter this part of the map? Are they even going to try?
Liptick is here. They don't seem to have eyes directly on it, and Thornbound Otacon will fall to Apex Mission Impossible. I don't even know how much the XP boost matters when everybody's almost level 18 already, but it is certainly something helpful to have.
Hey,
Baron, though, still up and standing.
Adaptive Force is worth it. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
We can also see on top of the Azir hitting 3 items, there's that upgraded Shadow Flame. So Retro Zing really going to start to hit. FBC are starting the Baron. Gordo, they're doing this, but this is the definition of desperation.
Lojaz is nowhere nearby. He completed a recall. Lojaz can't get here.
Wow.
This Baron belongs to final boss Chungus.
Oh my God.
I don't know if they saw him recall or what, but the second he hits the base, they hit the Baron, and the Baron hits the ground. Final boss Chungus sneak a Baron at 36.5 minutes.
The problem is it's 30 seconds until the dragon. This could be soul for AMI. You don't have enough time to really fix these wave states with your Baron empowered minions. So it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, I feel like, Gordo. They're going to be walking in. They have the Baron buff, but they could just as quickly lose it if they lose this fight.
There's Fliptick. He finds the angle. He thinks he's going to weigh on towards the carries, but immediately thinks better of it. The damage of Arbrio is too much. Fliptick forced back on away. He now has no Cataclysm, or Ragnarok, rather. He has no way to keep the fight going. He's got to back on away. He has no TP. Retrozing takes a big chunk, but not enough to finish him off. And this Dragon Soul looking very juicy for AMI.
You get the Baron, but it's not enough time in order to fix those lanes. The waves are not in your favor, and AMI have control of the bot side river, so they will be the ones that claim soul. This makes it really difficult for FBC to look for uses on this Baron now, because AMI have the power to actually fight them just up front every single time. They can ignore the waves. They can ignore the minions. They will go straight for the champions. Some aggression finally possible from both of these teams. AMI are unlocked here.
Oh, Chains of Corruption thrown out by Anori B, flashed away from by Barbo. Here comes Eon Crystal on the flank. Anori B does have the spell shield. It's going to get eaten by those shurikens. Still stepping up, feeling confident. The addition of this Hextech Soul to AMI's lineup, plus the Otacon secured earlier, giving them so many extra stats, so much extra power behind their poke. And that very well could be the difference maker that lets them continue to reign supreme on the map. Even if they can't find the kills, these arrows from Inori B will be felt for a long time.
Really well. The poke from the AD carries has been so good at chunking out these, you know, squishier members on the map, kind of taking them out. But I feel like for the side of AMI, they've got the teleports, right? I mean, Inori B gets hit, he immediately teleports back to the fight. Having full HP, Retrozing is going to have his TP soon, so he'll be able to teleport back to the fight. It means that FBC have to, you know, take that much more time to respawn, take the Hex Gates, rejoin up with their team, and that's time AMI can use, you know, to get a numbers advantage, possibly start a fight. As FBC, they're onto the tower. They should be able to take it, but those shields are doing a lot in keeping it alive.
Elimination on the line.
Okay, here we go.
Jazz pulling in Cole, the first shot, landing a knockup. It's going to be the scout of the week to keep them from following on up. Fliptic is on to Protos. He channels the ultimate, but he's going to get cut down regardless, and he's going to be flashing back away. It's an attempted engage from Eon Crystal, but he just gets one shot by the damage of Inori B and Retrozing, turning this into a 4-on-4. But Fliptic is so low, it's going to be so difficult to follow up onto. Channeling Ace in the hole in the middle of the lane. Petrigon is a nut job. I cannot believe he went for that. Doesn't really get punished, though. Aquanix still continuing to fish around with these scatters, does still have access to quite a bit of damage, and them connecting on towards any stray target could very well be the death of them.
Find the tower!
AMI just keep on wave clearing. They can't get the last shot. They can't get mid-outer turret down.
That feels like just, that feels like League of Legends rage bait. Like, you show that picture to anyone, and immediately their BPM rises by like at least 30.
This game is going the distance, Quacks. It is 40 minutes, 30 seconds. We had a 45-minute game number 2 with FBC pulling it back from the very brink. And it looks like they're going to need to do it again. They may have the gold lead, but AMI, they've got the Ornn upgrades coming out. They got the scaled up Azir. They have the Dragon Soul. They are so well set up to be able to continue to execute on these fights. It is the latest promoted team to the NACL up against a team that literally has Big Chungus as a logo. And we cannot determine who's going to win from this stage.
We don't deserve a matchup like that. Absolute cinema here in this series of ACL. Is that mid turret still standing, allowing AMI to posture a little bit more aggressively, though. You don't want to be too aggressive, Inori B.
Oh, Petrigon taking so much poke, manages to barely evade those chains of corruption and has to flash away from the call of the Forge God. It's now going to be Barbo left out to dry, trying to find the knockups, but the follow-up damage certainly not going to be there. He's just trying to buy time for the rest of his team. Aquanic is executed by Arbrio, and Arbrio's going to walk away with a little bit of a health bar left. 2 members down for FBC, dead for a minute. Retrozing getting in there, does have his engage nullified by Fliptic's Ragnarok, but Petrigon chased on by Lojaz. Lojaz can't finish the job. He's getting drain tanks by the Caitlyn. They will be able to back away for now. Another shot connecting from Inori B, but Petrigon going to be here, going to be alive, going to clear out the wave, and going to mean that AMI cannot end the game right here.
And they gotta back away. There's a Baron coming up in about 38 seconds. You could see those recalls are being channeled. They want to make sure they're in prime condition around this objective. I imagine they're buying their elixirs. They understand this Baron could very easily segue into that Elder coming up in about a minute after the Nasher. It's the domino effect that we have talked about the whole series, Gordo. One thing leads into another, leads into another. The dominoes, they've taken a long time to fall, but finally, I think we're going to the point of no return. Both of these teams, action is required from here on out.
We got a Rube Goldberg machine with how many dominoes are set up here, Quacks. It's taken a long time to get to this stage and to accomplish the simple task of destroying the Nexus. Cresting over to 43 minutes. Baron up on the table, a minute to go until Elder. One fight could decide it all, one stray ability connecting or not. We've seen how powerful this Syndra can be, but can she find the time? Can she find the stuns? Meanwhile, Retrozing and Inori B continue to just rain hell on any member of FBC they see. Barbo loses his unbreakable will before they even touch the river.
Being taken down so low, and now no support available for FBC almost certainly means that they have to concede this Baron. It's being two-manned by Low Jazz and RetroZing. That's how far into the game we are, where only 2 members are required to take down an objective here. Elder up in about 10 seconds as well. They can get Prio in the mid lane, in the bot lane. They can set up the waves, make it difficult for FBC to face check in, and FBC... they weren't decisive. It feels like they weren't pulling the trigger. They weren't looking for opportunities before the scaling became a huge factor in this game. And now the result is this Elder Baron. And it is down to this last fight, Gordo.
Elder's still up for the taking. FBC going to need it to be able to cement themselves a position in this game to try to fight back, to try to win out at the end of the day. But the Baron, as you said, going to make that all the more difficult. One trap stepped on, not going to be able to follow up on the shots here. Is Pichigan just coming back out of the base, so the traps will be cleared away. Fliptick trying to frontline for the rest of the team. Going to get spotted over the wall. Going to have to pop the ultimate just to walk away with his life. But they're going to gain nothing for it. Call the Forge God coming on through. Finds the knock up on the Barbo. He will throw down his Unbreakable Will to be able to stay standing for a little bit longer. But it's just the rest of the team slamming onto him. And no response able to be mustered by the likes of Final Boss Chungus. Low Jazz eats that damage for breakfast. Eon Crystal waiting deep behind enemy lines. Going to be forced to retreat as nobody has been taken low enough for anybody to stop AMI from taking this Elder Dragon.
Aeon, he's trying to get into the pit, but Arbrio, this man is a bouncer. And Aeon Crystal, this man is like 20 years old, 11 months and 30 days, but he is not allowed into the club. Elder will be secured by AMI, and just like in game number 2, they've got the Infinity Stones in this game, Gordo. It's the Elder, the Baron, and the Soul Complete.
AMI, with all the tools they could ask for in the world, to stay alive in ACL, to eliminate Final Boss Chungus, and to move on to one more qualification game next Friday. FBC have been so close they could taste it for the last 45 minutes, but unable to find the angle. They're going to need to try to find it now. Petrie God going to get hit by the call of the Forge God. Chains of Corruption going to connect afterwards. And then Nori B finds his man. One-shots the carry from FBC and make it both as Aquanic falls to a hail of arrows. Apex Mission Impossible. It's been a dicey season the whole way through, but one last gasp from Final Boss Chungus will not stop them from playing one more match. An ace picked on up, and game number 3 going the way of AMI.
Furthering their season, AMI make it possible, contrary to their name, and will continue their ACL run. Unfortunately for FBC, the run ends here. The road no longer paved ahead of them. And that game, so back and forth, but it felt like, you know what a good metaphor for that game is, Gordo? You know what a good metaphor is? It's like when you add like when you have like, did you ever have like a swear sock when you were a kid where you would put a penny in every time you cursed? This is a thing where you would put a penny in one by one, and like you wouldn't notice gradually that the weight was changing, but it would just, you would keep dropping one in every single day. It felt like that in this game. And then eventually they took that sock full of all of those pennies and they hit them across the head with it.
Is that what happened? All right, you know what? Never mind. We're not going to talk about that here. This is not. All right,
it was a dicey analogy, but I think I did my best. Okay, listen.
I just want to see if we have to call somebody. We'll put a break. We'll put a pin in that for now. All right. What a game out of Apex Mission Impossible. A hard-fought battle from Final Boss Chungus as they are nearly able to pull off another upset. What a game from both the Nori B and RetroZing. Want to give them tons of credit here for being able to keep themselves safe, not getting hit by a stray scatter of the week, not giving an engage angle to the Olaf, to the Alistair, and letting themselves just stall this out for 40 minutes until they were just unstoppable.
It really felt like it came to the point of no return. And really, if we're looking at the side of FBC, I got to give a special shout out to P3gon in this game, subbing in, having a lot of expectations. But I feel like he is the biggest reason why this series went to 3 games. That game 2 performance on the Tristana was so much fun to watch. And, you know, I feel like it almost kind of parallels what we initially saw from Arbrio and Grompcourt, where this guy was, you know, kind of the sub for an OQ team, comes in, kind of demolishes everybody, puts on a really good performance, and then we're really hopeful to see him again. That's the kind of same energy that I'm hoping we see from P3gon, because I think that this guy performed really nicely in the series that we saw him. So massive shout out to him, even though they weren't able to deliver a W today. I think that FBC certainly should be proud of the season that they put on, because that was a damn entertaining series.
Absolutely. Here they will be bowing out, but they do of course outperform their pool and their seed regardless, going out here in, I guess this makes you, what was it, so 17 18, I think this is 15th or 16th. Yeah, this would be 15th or 16th. Losers next week will be 13th or 14th, and we'll be left with top 12. Yep. So that is going to do it for this feature in a match. Updates from across the rest of the league. Weber State University take a 2-1 over Unction. Unction will be eliminated. Weber will move on for one more qualification match next week. And welcome to the ACL playoffs to Kiwi Gang and CCG, both taking their wins in 2-0 fashion. So the final matchups are set. It'll be Deathmark, Calamity, Deathmark, Calamity, Apex Mission Impossible, and Weber State University as the 4 teams fighting for 2 spots a week from Friday after our Thanksgiving break. It's going to be a tight battle. I'm very excited for it. It's hard to call at this stage, but congratulations to the 10 teams that have made playoffs so far.
Yep, absolutely. And once again, really big congratulations to AMI. The regular season, really rocky so far, but hey, it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. And although we are very far from the finish, it all starts with that one turnaround, that one little bit of extra boost in speed. And who knows, maybe this is the wind being tilted to AMI's back. Maybe this is where they really start to accelerate. I'm looking forward to seeing more of them in the coming weeks of the Aegis Champions League for sure, Gordo.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to throw to a quick break here. We're going to have an interview with Inori B after this win, so stay tuned for that one. We will see everybody in just a few short moments. Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's broadcast of the ACL, where we are joined by the victorious Inori B, coming off the bench for Apex Mission Impossible to win a banger 3-game series. Congratulations, Inori B. It feels like it's got to be an exhausting one, no?
Yeah, I think all 3 games were really long, and I feel like we were really slow, but we still got the dub at the end of the day.
So we called out a lot of times throughout the cast that it feels like it's kind of been AMI's style throughout a lot of the later half of 2025 since making that last round of roster changes with RetroZing and Protoss. Does it feel like it's like intentional to play a slower game, trying to win out through the later game team fights and the later game objective setups, or is that something that's just kind of how the game breaks down?
I think it's just their play style for sure. I'm not used to it, but I feel like it like pressures the team to like make plays and forces them to like out team fight you late game. So it's like more pressure in late game rather than like if you just close it out early game. There's like less mistakes to be made. But late game for sure, you need to like really lock in. Like you can feel the sweat and shit.
Absolutely. So I kind of wanted to pick your brain about that play style because you individually are a very high, I would say, lane phase octane player. You like to take control in the first 14 minutes. That really is kind of your playground and what you're known for by a lot of people from the outside looking in. Baz, the person who is usually the main starter for this team, is kind of the opposite. Baz is more so known for being a weak side AD carry. So kind of tell me, how did that difference in play style potentially affect you guys throughout this series? Were there any things where there were conflicting calls, or do you guys think you kind of just gelled right away and were able to kind of adapt to your style over Baz's, which is a little bit slower?
I didn't really force them to play my style. I just adapted because having me as a player, you will always have advantages in the bot lane. You always have like 20 or like 30 CS lead because I'm always one of those dominant ADCs who always like get pressure without jungle and always like waste time. I feel like it helps them play more of their style. So I'm playing more like an adaptive style, play more of like the supportive champions that I know that I cannot make mistakes on because I'm really good at them. Rather than if I'm playing like aggressive styles, I'm forced into like playing aggressive and like what my other personality starts kicking in where I start like egoing. Like Draven, that game, it was pretty bad, that one fight.
You say a couple of fights in that game where it felt like Pete Trigon, who is a new face for a lot of us here at the ACL, was able to find good engages on that Tristana here. Any thoughts on that game number 2 and facing off against this player with that Tristana in particular being able to kind of find engages onto you multiple times? Was it unexpected for the Tristana to kind of play in that aggressive style, or do you think it's just positional errors on your side?
I think he played pretty well for sure for being a rookie. I didn't expect it, but I don't really think his engages, like he really isn't really engaging. I think it was just pretty straightforward standard. I think he played lane pretty good. I think we just threw our lead when I was 2-0 with our misplayed the tower dive. But I think if we just hold my lead and I was up like 2k gold, I think we would have closed the game out in maybe like 30 minutes, so point. But he did play pretty well though to come back.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I guess my final question for you here in ORAB is obviously this puts you guys into a position where you're going to be facing off against a team, and the winner of that will be promoting into the playoffs. So I don't believe the matches are already set quite yet. So there are 3 other teams, Gordo. You'll have to shout them out. But are there any particular ones that you do want to face or don't want to face? What are
the remaining teams are Deathmark, Calamity, and Weber.
Okay. I really haven't seen the rosters because right now I'm taking this is supposed to be my off season. I'm supposed to I haven't played competitive in like 3 months. I wasn't gonna play this ACL, but Pockets hit me up and he's one of my close friends, so I was down to sub in. So, and here we are, 2-2 or 3-3. I don't know the score.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Well, I think that's going to about do it here for us in RAB. Thank you so much for hopping on, and thanks for taking a break from your off season to come and play a little bit of ACL alongside the rest of us. Looking forward to how the rest of the squad is going to be able to perform in a little over a week in their final matchup to qualify for playoffs or be eliminated. Anything you want to shout out? Anything you want to say before we close out the broadcast?
Yeah, I want to shout out to all my friends, and like everyone cracking on, Bluebee, Pockets, my team for playing really well and working along this journey with me. I can't wait to make it to playoffs for them.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us in RAB. Always a pleasure to hear from you here. do want to say that that is going to be the end of our broadcast here tonight. Thank you for everybody for tuning on in. We are about to go on Thanksgiving break, so there will be no stream on Black Friday, and there will be no stream on the following Cyber Monday. We will be back a week from Friday with our final matches to qualify for playoffs. So that'll be December 5th. Mark your calendars. We'll be live at the normal 8 Eastern time on that day. But for now, we're going to enjoy the holiday and take ourselves a little bit of a break. So from myself, Caddy, and Quacks on production, have yourselves a great Thanksgiving. Reminder that it is promo code Aegis for 1,000 yen off your first international shipping fee at Zen Market, or code Aegis25 for 25% off your first purchase. And we will see everybody next time.
Bro, just use Zen Market.